Hello, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. And it is, 6 o'clock. I just named the time. I want to start by reminding those who would like to speak tonight, on whether it's on item 3.1, which is items off the agenda, or an item that is on the agenda. If you could please be sure to hand our city clerk a yellow card so that we're aware of the number of people who want to speak, because we certainly want to hear from everyone. All right, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and that's going to be led by Councilmember Tovar. Please stand. Thank you. Remain standing. We have Trevor Van Laar here to do the invocation.
Members of the council and audience, thank you so much for inviting me tonight. Start with a brief moment of silence, then join me silently in prayer. God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. God of love, we trust in you with all of our heart and lean not on our own understanding. Instead, we acknowledge you in all our ways and in all of our meetings so that you will direct our paths. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us to see the humanity and the dignity of those who disagree with us, to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence of your creation. Father, we do not rely on ourselves for effective results, for we are only human and often make mistakes. It is you who knows all things, so Father, please have your divine way in this meeting. And finally, please renew within us the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of all these human people here. We ask this as your sons and daughters in your good name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, City Clerk's report on posting the agenda, followed by roll call.
Yes, Madam Mayor. The agenda was posted on Friday, September 30th at 12 p.m. Councilmember Armendariz?
Here.
Councilmember Bracco?
Here.
Councilmember Hilton?
Here.
Councilmember Libra Munoz?
Present.
Councilmember Marks?
Here.
Councilmember Tovar?
Here.
And Mayor Blinkley.
Here. All right, under orders of the day, we have none. Under employee introductions, we have two. Leanne, you want to start with yours?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, members of the Gilroy community. My name is Leanne McPhillips. I'm the Assistant City Administrator and Administrative Services Director, and I am very excited to introduce to you our new Fleet Superintendent, Abraham Carmelino. Abraham has over 30 years of experience in the fleet industry, having worked for Recology, OnTrack, Rural Metro, Cintas, and FedEx. He has been a fleet manager for over 12 years, so he brings a lot of management and supervisory experience to this position. Abraham prides himself on being resourceful, creative, proactive, and first and foremost focused on safety for both the mechanics and the drivers of our city vehicles. He is very knowledgeable about fleet-related regulations, and he's a hands-on manager who can lead and manage the operation, but also get out in the shop and repair a vehicle if he needs to do so. He is excited about working for the City of Gilroy and the challenges that this position has to offer. He knows he will learn some new skills and gain new knowledge. Abraham completed the Automotive Technology program at Skyline Community College. Please join me in welcoming Abraham Carmelino to the City of Gilroy.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I just want to be asked to the City of Gilroy and all of her departments. So, again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, and welcome. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. And is Daryl here to introduce? Introduce Marco Martinez, Engineer 1? No, not tonight. Okay, never mind. All right, under ceremonial items, we have none. And now comes item 3.1, public comment by any item that is not on the agenda. If someone has something to say on something not on the agenda, you should have filled out a speaker card. If you have not, please do so and hand it to our city clerk so that we know how many people wish to speak. And Ty, you have,
Currently, I have 4 speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
okay, and it looks like 5.
Yes. The first speaker is Karen Fortino, followed by Raimundo Armendariz, followed by Marty Estrada, followed by Bill James.
Okay. We'll set the timer, 3 minutes, that's our 5, right, under our council norms. So the timer will be right there next to you. So please go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. I just wanted to address, again, I've spoken in front of you before about the animal control issue here in town. I just wanted to start off with, there is out at the garlic farm, there are many unhoused people that live out there, as you all know. We're doing our best to go out there and provide food and some sort of, support for them. Obviously, it's all over Gilroy, so we're doing our best. I just wanted to find out, and you may not be able to answer this evening, but is there any resource that we can get, like I've spoken to David, the ACO, who is absolutely amazing. I just wanted to see if there's anything else we can do to possibly get a mobile spay neuter to get out there just to help prevent more dogs, more kitties, and more of the situation that we have out there. They're very nice people, and just wanted to present that to you and find out if there's anything that we can do. And again, just very great support from David, the ACO. He's been really great with us lately, so just wanted to thank him. I know he's not here tonight, but appreciate all his help.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, next speaker.
Raimundo Armendariz.
Can you announce the few others then so they can all?
Yes.
We're asking people to please come up front so we don't lose the time it takes to just get people to come up front. Thank you.
Followed by Marty Estrada, followed by Bill James.
So good evening, council. I'm here to request on behalf of Caras and the Latino community of Gilroy that the Youth Center be added to the Community Investment Plan, or CIP, agenda, as well as the City Council agenda for the next City Council meeting in October. Caras has campaigned for Youth Center since 2014, and in the last 5 months has spoken here before you all. Our youth advocate and have surveyed and petitioned in the community 11 separate times at local stores, churches, downtown, as well as high schools. There's been overwhelming support from Latino parents and youth for a youth center to be built in the east side. The Caras youth advocates have to this date gathered over 487 petition signatures and 117 favorable surveys. We plan to continue petitioning and surveying until the youth center is added to the city council agenda. We have prepared a presentation with one of our board members and plan on presenting it to you all. Other than the petition and surveying, Caras has visited local youth centers in our neighboring cities, the Centennial Recreation Center in Morgan Hill, the Seven Trees Community Center, and the Washington United Youth Center in San Jose. San Jose invested in building over 7 youth centers across the city since 2001 to address hotspots designated by law enforcement. This has successfully led to San Jose having one of the lowest crime rates for a city of its size in the country. Morgan Hill, our nearest neighbor, invested $27.6 million in 2006, leading to the city remaining with relatively low youth arrests and youth crime. Morgan Hill has consistently been between 4th and 7th in terms of youth arrests, according to the Santa Clara County Youth Justice Report from 2017 to 2020, while Gilroy has consistently placed number 1 in youth arrests the last 2 years and between 3rd and 4th in the previous 2 years to that, 2017 and 2018, with 81% of arrests in the county being brown youth and 12% being black youth, creating a disproportionate impact on Latino youth and families in Gilroy. This all leads to the city of Gilroy needing a youth center to address this very important issue of youth arrest and racial disparity. We beckon you to add the youth center to the agenda for the next city council meeting and to the community investment plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Marty Estrada, followed by Bill James, followed by James Pearson.
Dear council members, I echo what Raimundo had just stated about having a youth center here in Gilroy. It's very important that we put this on the community investment plan coming up on the agenda. The reason why we need a youth center is because, number one, we don't have one. Number two, as Raimundo mentioned, it lowers the rates of arrest in any city. We need a place that families and youth can come together and do programming, not just for the youth and families, but also for seniors. Everybody, the whole community. And it's gonna take effort on you, the council members, to partner with the city, with us, the community, to make that happen. But we really need to put some pedal to the metal this time. We have been waiting for a youth center for quite some time. We had an overwhelming response of the community. Not one said that we shouldn't have one. All of them overwhelmingly said we need a youth center. This has been on the board for quite some time. And it's kind of, frankly, from my perception, a little bit shameful. We need to get back on track. Let's build it together for the sake of the community. We all represent the community. Our children are not going to benefit if we don't have a community center. A lot of kids now are struggling because there's not a community center we can do programming. There's so much programming we can do. You know, I'm pretty sure everybody has been to the Aquatic Center in Morgan Hill. It's beautiful. They do so much programming there. Let us shine as a community here in Gilroy. Be proud of this and build this big, gigantic youth center. It's going to benefit all youth. You know, this is very important to the youth and families of Gilroy. You know that. I'm preaching to the choir. You all know that. But can you put some action behind what you say in your heart and what you feel? And say, listen, you know what? Let's just do this together. You know, I remember one time 3 of my friends got together and we were having coffee at Starbucks. And out of that, we developed a community 501c3 just by having coffee. And we accomplished the goals that we had set out. You all have goals that you can put on the table. Rebecca Almendares brought out, do we have a youth inventory list? A couple sessions back. Do we know now? What does that youth inventory list look like? How many programs are being afforded to our youth and families in Gilroy right now? Does anybody know right now off the top of your head? What does that look like? How many investments do we have in terms of the inventory list to showcase in Gilroy that we're proud that we have tons of services for our youth and families? We got to work together. Time is now, not tomorrow, today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
James Pearson,
Okay,
followed by,
I'm gonna
sorry,
stop.
Bill
Yeah.
James, followed by James Pearson,
You
followed
are
by
the next
Michael A.
speaker, but
Sanchez.
I want to ask the audience to please not applaud. It is disruptive and it can be intimidating to some speakers, and I'm just asking that we please refrain from doing that kind of demonstration. There we go. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I want to mention one of the previous speakers that seems to have left an iPad here at the podium. Yes, and so I'm Bill James. I'm chair of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party. There was some discussion during public comment. I think one comment made at your last meeting that I wanted to address briefly. First of all, I appreciate your agenda for being clear that this time is to discuss things within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Gilroy City Council, and our electoral endorsement or removal of endorsement is not within that subject matter. And so it would have been very appropriate for the council to have ruled the entire comment that was made out of order, because that's a matter for all of us in the political realm to deal with in the electoral space. But what really concerned me was that the person's comments were directed not only to the party, and reference was made to a communist communication, although I'm not sure that was the Gilroy Journal article that was being referred to or our resolution. But there was commentary directed to members of your council that I thought was highly inappropriate and really, frankly, aggressive. The gentleman said he was angry. He said that we, unnamed we people, were going to do stuff to make your life miserable, and none of you should have to put up with that kind of statement from this podium, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or anything in between. Your service is appreciated. You should feel safe in this space. All of the members of the community here present should feel safe, and it was highly inappropriate for that person to have made those comments, and I would encourage, if the council feels it does not currently have norms that would give the mayor the power to rule that out of order and put an end to that, I encourage you to adopt those norms. Other communities recently have done so. After problems at their council meetings, Los Gatos adopted strong measures that empowered the council and the mayor to regulate the conduct of their meetings, so statements like that didn't exist. The last thing I'll mention is that we had, outside of the subject matter of this council, we had a political dispute that resulted in our party removing the endorsement of one of your members, Mr. Tovar, and I mentioned him not to call him out, but to credit him with writing us a letter in response. saying in a very urbane way, why he felt it wouldn't be appropriate for the council, for the Central Committee to remove its endorsement. And I wrote to him back in a polite way, shared his comments with everybody else. He and I were able to have that political difference, which resulted in the action that was taken without being uncivil and without making any threats whatsoever. And so I encourage that model to be followed in future statements by the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
James Pearson, followed by Michael A. Sanchez, followed by Elia Salinas.
Madam Mayor, honorable council members, my name is James Pearson. This is definitely nonpartisan. I am one of the original members of the Library Bond Committee, and we have $5 million still in the Library Bond Committee funds that the library's been done for 10 years. We're supposed to, as we promised when we passed this bond measure, to return it to the taxpayers. Now, Jimmy had us revitalized in 2019. We were ready to do it, and then COVID hit, and everything fell by the wayside. So it's got to go to the staff of the city, and then it will come to you after we sunset ourselves. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Ty, can I add, that was our fifth speaker, so how much has it grown?
Let's see. We're at number 9.
Yeah, okay, so in the future then I'm going to limit the time, right, because now it's above what our norms would be, so I can't change it now. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. Good evening, Mrs. Mayor and council members. Nice to see you guys. First of all, I want to thank you all for your service. It's not easy leading people. It's not easy leading a community. And I just want you guys to know I sincerely feel for all of you for some of the things that you have to go through, some of the public comments and opinions that are sometimes leveled unfairly. And that's actually the purpose of my talk right now. I'm very distressed about some things I've read in local publications. As public servants in a community not much bigger than 60,000, I think that party politics doesn't have a place. I think that political hit pieces have no place in our community. You guys are all up there as equals, as peers. Your job is to lead us, to lead the public, to serve the public. Public servants. It's not about your own agendas. It's not about what you think is right or wrong. It's about what you can come up with as a group that best serves the entire community. I fear that that's not happening. Years ago, there was an attempt to bring national politics into Gilroy, and that was at the time of the Ferguson riots. The result of that was an attempt to shut down a small business. It was malicious, it was unfair, it was unrightly leveled against a small business owner who happened to be a Vietnam refugee who came over on a boat. I led the counter-offensive to that, and what happened was our community came out. Everybody came out and supported the small business, giving them 5 or 6 days of the biggest income they've ever seen. That's what this community does. We pull together, we forget politics, and we go help those who need help. I implore you all, please, be public servants, community first, because what's happening right now is not going to stand, and I will be the first to counter it. My appeal to you, sincerely, as a citizen of Gilroy, is to please serve us as an entire community. Do what's best for us, not what's best for your party, not what's best for your own agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, thank you, guys. Thank you for not. All right, the next one.
Elia Salinas, followed by Valentina Ranellis, followed by Kat Tucker.
Good afternoon, good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Elia Salinas. I give myself a title of local government activist, accountability, local government accountability activist. I can't even say what I call myself. Government Code Section 54950 through 54963. That gives us the right to come before you and speak. The First Amendment right gives us the right to come before you and speak. The Brown Act also gives us the right to come forward and speak, be listened to by the entire council. If you disagree or don't disagree, that's entirely each individual person. You are up here, you are elected, and it should be nonpartisan position. What happened at the last council meeting was a violation of the First Amendment rights, was a violation of the government code, and a violation of the Brown Act. I came before you a year ago, November the 8th, almost a year ago, requesting that council member Armendariz resign at that time. She had not, until that day, publicly apologized. She basically, she was interviewed the following day, and she asked for prayers for her family without offering any condolences to the victim. Now there are 2 victims. She owes an apology to the Gilroy Police Department for the time that it took to do the investigation. She owes an apology to the entire city of Gilroy for her actions. She went above claiming or using her title as a council member to not abide by any laws, whether they were municipal or state laws, whether they were penal code sections as well. She owes an apology. She should resign. There are a lot of people out there who are very disappointed, and unfortunately, I was the only one, and Mr. Kirchhoff were the only ones a year ago that came and spoke forward. Now the investigation is over, and all we have found with the investigation that has happened is that she has no veracity that we can rely on. She sits before you, and she's making decisions, and what it is more of an embarrassment every single day that she continues to be on the dais. I will again ask you, Rebecca Armendariz, to please resign so we can get rid of this black eye that you have brought upon the city of Gilroy. I have been here my entire life. Not one city council member has ever behaved in such a manner as you have. You are an embarrassment to our entire community. Please resign.
Okay. I want to just point out that it's okay, we're done. But the subject of that, I thought this was going towards the subject of the last meeting. No, you're done. I just want to say that if you're going to speak on item, if anybody is going to be speaking on item 11.1, please wait until we get to 11.1, is what I wanted to ask. That's all. Okay? Next speaker.
Valentina Renales, followed by Kat Tucker.
Hi, my name is Valentina Renales. As the couple gentlemen had spoke before in regards to like bipartisan in the city, I also would implore this council to really look at like what we're doing and not like individual of Republican or Democrat, but realize like you represent everybody in the city and not all of us are Democrats, not all of us are Republicans. I see we have a packed house. I also wanted to take this opportunity to flag that Carol Marquez had called me personally on the pretense about her campaign and helping out with her campaign. She then went to confront me about my comment at the last city council when I brought it up that she had said that the lowrider community was full of gangbangers and drug addicts. And I felt very intimidated by that call. And I don't know, like, legality where I was supposed to forward that complaint. So I did reach out to Rebecca, and I'll save what I want to say for Rebecca when 11.1 comes on. But I do believe what these other gentlemen saying is talking about responsibility. I don't believe that is within the frame of council members to call citizens outside of council meetings to confront them on something that was said. And then like Mr. Hilton, I was accused of smearing her campaign. So I couldn't wait for this opportunity to come forth for you guys to bring this up, because I'm far from smearing a campaign. That comment wasn't the nail in her coffin when it comes to my vote. And it's not appropriate. I don't appreciate it. That's not bipartisan. That's not working as a community, and that's not respecting all of us within this community. I really implore you guys to get some sort of norms on how we behave, not only us as constituents on the outside, but the accountability on your council members reaching out to people. We had the time. She could have said something at the meeting, but she chose to wait, and then she called me. And this wasn't something that I took lightly. I started thinking, well, shit, excuse my language. Is my property management now going to retaliate against me? Am I now going to lose my housing here in Gilroy because she knows somebody, she's friends with somebody, and she's going to make the comment to say that I am being aggressive and smearing her campaign? So this wasn't taken lightly on me or my family, and I very much felt intimidated, and I very much would like to follow up with a formal complaint, whatever that process is. So I hope that somebody can share that with me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
That would be Kat Tucker.
Hi, my name is Kat Tucker. As many of you know, I'm the former city council member. I felt compelled to speak up because many times I watch from home and I have seen council meeting after council meeting after council meeting of people coming up forward asking for a youth center and saying there is no youth center. Well, when I know darn well, when I was on council, I voted to spend $5 million to update the San Ysidro Center. I don't know the exact name of it now, if the name got changed and it's not a youth center, but whatever the actual name is, I have always advocated for youth, and it took a lot back then to get $5 million to extend that building. It was a smaller building. It's maybe too small now, but it was a smaller building before. And then we enlarged it. And then we put brand new basketball courts and handball courts and irrigation for the water. We did a lot of stuff. So I feel like some people are misleading that there's no youth center. What we need is a multi-purpose center. And if it's a good idea to use Wheeler or whatever you guys want to use, I'm behind it, and I'm behind if it's used for youth services. But don't forget us seniors, okay? I'm over 60 now. And I know the senior center is now being used by youth services. I'm okay because I advocate for youth, and I think we need all those programs, but we need programs for our seniors as well. So I just want you, the council, to remember your history, do your research, and remember what this city has already paid to upgrade the San Ysidro. What I call the youth center, maybe that's not the official name. Someone can correct me, but I just want to remind you guys that I fought for it and we got it. And there are a lot of programs that were being canceled that year, and we still got it. And Councilmember Dion Bracco fought for it too. So I'm just saying, please, when you think of creating a new something, whatever it is, it's a multi-purpose room or center for seniors and youth together. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. Are there any other speaker cards?
I received one more speaker card, but it is from Mr. Marty Estrada. He
Who's
spoke
already
earlier.
spoken? Okay, no, sorry. All right. No, you get 3 minutes, and you use 3 minutes. It doesn't matter. It's not per topic, it's per person.
Yes, it's reasonable to allow each speaker to speak once. If you wanted to speak on two things, you could do it at the time, but only one speech per speaker is allowed under public comment. And that's always been how we've done it here.
And all within the 3 minutes.
The norms that we agreed on don't say that. The norms say that they're limited, right?
That has been the
And there are
practice.
different agenda items. Why wouldn't somebody,
This is-
and the practice has been, just in our very last meeting, folks spoke on multiple agenda items. Folks in our audience today speak on multiple agenda items.
No, they may do that, but not
This
under
is
the
3.1.
unscheduled comment 3.1.
Right.
This is
Of course, they
3.1.
can
That's what
speak
he's
again.
asking
Anybody
about.
can
He's
who's
asking to
spoken.
speak a second time.
On a
Anybody
different
who
agenda
spoke-
item.
3.1.
He's saying it's a different agenda item.
Right, he can
No,
speak.
it's
he
not a
can
different
speak-
agenda item.
Excuse me.
'Cause it's-
Hold on a second. The speaker, the member of the audience may speak on any agenda item when it comes up.
Right.
Under the public comments for matters not on the agenda, he's already spoken, and the practice here has always been that speakers in that part of the meeting get to speak once. If they want to speak on several items during that 3 minutes, they can do it, but you only get one shot at it.
Yeah.
However, when an agenda item comes up, you can speak again.
Okay, so we are done with 3.1. There's only one comment I want to make, is that for those that don't know, we do have council norms. They are available on the website for anyone to see. And with respect to the item that was raised at the last meeting that one gentleman spoke to, I just want to point out that what he was referring to was the article in the Gilroy Dispatch. That's what he was talking about. And in that article, one council member was quoted as saying how the other council member voted on this dais in our jurisdiction, and how instead that vote should have been different to be along the lines of his political party. So that is how it came into the jurisdiction of this body, was because it was on the dispatch article. Okay, so moving on to.
Mayor, I'm sorry. I'm
No.
not responding to a comment. I just have a question.
A question, okay.
Well, and it was said a couple times regarding our norms, and I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I just want people to know that our norms exist.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, and maybe it's a discussion we need to have once again.
yeah, well,
Okay.
that's another, right, another topic. Okay, reports of council members. Councilmember Bracco.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Armendariz.
Just like to recognize October as Filipino American Heritage Month. No other report.
Councilmember Marks.
No report.
Councilmember Hilton.
Thank you, Mayor Blankley. From the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Board of Directors adopted a resolution recognizing October 5th as Clean Air Day, a statewide event by the Coalition for Clean Air. By joining together for a unified day of action, we can create new habits to improve air quality for all of California's communities. Actions that agencies and community members can take include electrifying space and water heating and replacing gas ranges with induction cooktops that can directly improve air quality in the region. SVC will recognize Clean Air Day by including air quality and health messaging in customer communications and promoting actions customers can take to participate in Clean Air Day. The Silicon Valley Clean Energy Board approved the fiscal year 22-23 budget outlining the year's spending and financials with favorable improvements to budget margins and assumption of the continuation for the 1% customer discount for generation rates. SVC will build reserves to protect against external risk and accelerate local decarbonization. In the previous fiscal year, 21-22, customers have saved an aggregated $5.4 million with a 1% discount. Thank you.
Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment. I just want to thank all the community for coming out here tonight. I know that we all appreciate all your different opinions, but we're glad that you're out here tonight and for being very professional. I just want to thank all of you.
All right, Councilmember Leroy Munoz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two quick items. One, great to see the scouts here in the audience tonight. You are getting an education in local politics tonight, so congrats. Yeah, I remember being a scout, and I don't remember seeing a meeting like this. But anyway, good to have you. The second thing, tomorrow is our National Night Out celebration for our community. As everyone knows, this is an annual event that we put on in the city with our law enforcement, emergency response. Many members of our community turn out. It's going to be tomorrow afternoon beginning at 4 o'clock, just right across the garden over there in the Civic Center Plaza. We're going to have games, food. It's terrific, something that I look forward to. I know that Councilmember Bracco and Mayor Blankley usually join me at that because we are members of the Gilroy Youth Task Force that helps to support that program. So look forward to seeing everyone in the community tomorrow, Tuesday, October 4th, out on the Civic Center Plaza.
Yeah, it starts at 4 o'clock, ends at 7. Right, I'll be there. Okay, and I have two items. One is the Gilroy Economic Development Partnership met last week. This is a group that brings forth initiatives, to further economic development in Gilroy. The three that we've done are the Sharks, the downtown alleyways, and what is now called the Recreation Gateway area. That's around Gilroy Gardens, because that we've just kind of started getting into an exclusive negotiated agreement. That is going to remain one of the next three. So they're talking about adding two. I'm not here to say that anything's been decided. It's just that as your council rep there, Councilmember Hilton is also a rep there, but I haven't seen him in the last two meetings, so I'm going to share that those two items that are being discussed are adding training, working with job training and promoting a workforce in the trades, and also looking at possibly some entertainment uses around the outlets. So we'll look for those. We'll see how those materialize. And then lastly, we have a joint water recycle committee meeting Wednesday, and that's the group that meets about all the purple pipes you might be seeing being laid everywhere around the city. That concludes my report. All right, council correspondence, we have none. Future council initiated agenda items?
I have one.
Okay.
So in 2019, the city had a consultant do community surveys regarding our recreation programs. And we've heard multiple times from the youth of the community who've done a survey about a need for a youth center and adequate recreational services for youth, in particular on the east side. So I'd like to propose that we discuss on one of our future agendas how to get that started, what information do we need, and what funding sources could be and such to look into building or creating a youth center.
All right, so that will be, do you want to say something? Yeah, no, I was going to say something, but if you want to say something first, go
Thank
ahead.
you, Ms. Armendariz, and I don't normally jump in before the council gets, but will be doing the council strategic planning in January, and one of the items that we have discussed is use of city land and city facilities and how they attach to that study that you're talking about our recreation needs assessment. And just the last year, I have dealt with pickleball, futsal, dog parks, youth centers, so it's all there, and it's all bubbling, and so I would expect that to be something I would discuss with council in January about how we go forward in addressing all of our recreation needs, including, as you said, a youth center, so.
Okay, then I'll remove my request.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. All right, then. Consent calendar. So I'm going to start with asking, is there anything that someone wants to remove from the consent calendar? If not, then I'll go to public comment. Are there any public comments on the consent calendar?
No speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Closing public comment, and we've got a motion made by Councilmember Tovar, seconded by,
I made the motion.
Yeah.
okay.
I'll still have to do the roll call vote here.
Well, I know.
fine.
If the
No,
roll
that's
call, but
fine.
I don't know
Yeah.
who to say
Peter, that's fine. I'll take it. Councilmember Lou.
Okay. Thank you for digital voting, but I'll also do the roll call vote here. Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Leroy Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blankley.
Yes. Okay, those items pass. All right, item 8, bids and proposals. Award a contract to, is it Sisterco? Sizerco Energy Solutions in the amount of $3,685,718 for energy conservation measures reimbursable under PG&E's on-bill financing program. Leanne's going to give us this report, and I would like the council to understand that 8.1, well, and the public too, 8.1 and 9.1 are going to be in the same report because they're related. They're all energy conservation. The next one is solar. So it's all in the same subject matter. All right.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, members of the Gilroy community. I'm happy to present this item tonight on energy conservation measures and a solar power purchase and site lease agreement. This is an exciting report that we've been working on for quite some time, so to get it to this place today is pretty exciting for us. Oops, let me move that down. So we're going to be talking about two things in this report. The energy conservation measures that we've identified, as well as an on-bill financing program that will fund those. And then the second item is a solar power purchase and site lease agreement with Juwa Capital. As you know, council has a goal of maintaining and improving city infrastructure, including streets, facilities, and incorporating green energy practices. This report tonight supports this council goal. Some of the specific goals of this project are to reduce energy consumption across our city-owned infrastructure, reduce the city's ongoing utility and operational costs, further reduce city's greenhouse gas emissions, and create a safer, more comfortable conditions for staff and the public. So we've been working with Sizerco Energy Solutions, and I want to introduce some project team members this evening. Walter Dunkel is our facility superintendent. Wave, Walter. And he has carried the heavy lifting on this item. So he has worked hard to get it to this place. We have Gabe Johnson from Sizerco Energy Solutions. He's a senior account executive, and he has taught me more about energy conservation, energy savings, power purchase agreements, and 25 other acronyms that I can use at the next party I go to as it relates to energy solutions. This is complicated, and it has taken a while to get my head wrapped around it, and Gabe has tolerated all my questions, and it's exciting to be at this place. So Sizerco has been working with the City of Gilroy for about 14 years. They have mainly assisted us with servicing our HVAC controls and doing some other energy conservation related to our HVAC systems. They have experience working with government agencies on similar energy conservation projects as the ones we're presenting to you this evening. They are qualified by the California Department of General Services as an energy services provider. And Government Code Section 4217 allows municipalities to select an energy service provider just based on their overall value. It allows us to go outside the normal bid process and identify somebody who has been certified in this regard. So in 2021, we selected Sizerco Energy Solutions to perform an investment grade audit to help us identify projects and what we could do to save energy. So this audit was the first step in the process. We wanted to identify opportunities to achieve energy conservation. And through that audit process, they've already earned their keep because they helped us receive a refund of $233,642 because of an error that was identified on our billing related to a lighting project that we had implemented previously. This audit identified 11 energy conservation measures and also the use of solar as the best opportunities for Gilroy. And the measures can be implemented and paid for by energy cost reductions. So the two project opportunities that we're talking to you about tonight is PG&E's on-bill financing of various energy savings projects, and then also a power purchase agreement to implement solar power to reduce our energy costs. So with the energy conservation measures, as I mentioned, the audit identified 11 items. Those have been pre-approved by PG&E. So the on-bill funding that the city is able to receive is $3.69 million. And there's a 10-year payback period for that. So we get the reduced billing because of the energy savings covers the payback to PG&E to pay for the project implementation. In this instance, the city fronts the project money, and then PG&E reimburses us upon completion of the project, which will take about 1 year. So the energy conservation measure items that have been identified include improvements to our HVAC controls, HVAC refurbishment and replacement in various sites, duct sealing, E-Gen heat pump installation, lighting upgrades, LED street light upgrades, power transformer replacement, and maximum power transfer solution devices, which is large load savings, which is really one of the larger ticket items in the array of projects. And in the staff report that was written and provided in your packet, there's a little bit more detailed description of each one of these, but in the interest of time, I'm just highlighting them here tonight. The benefits of these projects are total energy cost savings of $8.5 million over 15 years. That is huge. That is reduced energy that we're not utilizing here at the city through these savings measures. And after paying for the project costs, the city will actually realize dollar savings of almost $4.8 million after 15 years. And then after the OBF payoff, what we'll see annually is about $600,000 in savings on our billing. Our annual carbon offset will exceed 550 metric tons of CO2 per year, and many of our infrastructure systems that relate to our energy will have important upgrades and replacements to make our systems run more efficiently. So Government Code Section 4217 simplifies this process for cities to encourage us to move forward with these energy conservation measures and to put these kinds of projects in place to reduce our use of energy. It allows the city to select a partner, in this case Sizerco, based on the overall value that they're offering to the city. Sizerco has the experience and expertise. They've been working with us, and we know how knowledgeable they are as it relates to these kinds of projects. They're pre-qualified provider available in the pool pursuant to the Public Utilities Code, and most agencies do take advantage of Government Code 4217 when working on these kinds of projects, so this is not unusual. So the fiscal impact of moving forward with these energy conservation measures, it's 100% funded by the PG&E on-bill financing program. The city fronts the capital of the $3.69 million. Then we get reimbursement from PG&E upon project completion, which will take about a year. Our equipment outlay fund is currently holding $3 million for the HVAC replacement project that we're not able to move forward with because the bidding came in too high. But we can utilize the money for this purpose, and then the general fund will transfer to the equipment outlay fund the remaining dollars needed to move forward with the projects. And then when PG&E reimburses us, we'll put the dollars back where those funds came from. So the next step is to complete the budget transfers. finalize and execute the energy services agreement with Sizerco, and that needs to finish with final staff review and legal review, and then finalize and execute the on-bill financing and reimbursement agreement with PG&E. And I'll pause just quickly on this project to see if there's any questions before I move on to the PPA project.
Okay, so what I heard there was that auditors are good. That's been my profession, and that was never how you
It's
were
always
made
good
to
to
feel.
audit. It's
But
always
no,
good to
I'm
audit.
just teasing. That was a good comment. Okay, council, questions? Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you. Thank you, Leanne, and thank you for this section of the report and for the comments that you've made in regards to the company. But here's my concern. We practice whenever a contract's, we always send it out to bid for, for everybody. And I'm reading what you said is that the city has the choice to select someone. And I'm just reading on the alternates of why we're going, because it saves significant staff time, resources, as well as delays the project. I understand those, I respect those. But what's to say that if we sent it out to bid, it would not come back cheaper and saving us more money? So I'm trying to understand why specifically this project, I mean, we're looking at close to $4 million, and I'm kind of baffled that a project of that size is not going out to public bid. So help me understand that.
Yeah, so it's $4 million, but it's temporary money.
Right.
Because we're actually going to pay for the projects through savings that we're going to realize on our PG&E bill. So there's no actual, at the end of the game, 1 year, when the projects are implemented, there's no city dollars going into putting these projects in place. They're all being paid for through the on-bill financing. And for that reason, the government code section allows a streamlined, expedited process. And for a city like Gilroy, when we don't have a depth of staff that have expertise in this area, we have to rely upon a service provider like Sizerco to even help us identify these things that we could do to achieve these kinds of savings. So it's that kind of partnership to get us to this place.
Which I completely understand, but I think you know where I'm going with all this. So I understand, I respect that, but again, I'm looking at the size of the project. I understand it's temporary, but I don't see, are there other companies who do the same work?
Oh, I'm sure there
No,
are other companies out there.
And where is this company from?
Sizerco is based out of the Bay Area. Fremont is where your office is, Mr. Johnson. And so, they do a lot of work in municipalities in this area and have the reputation and references that we've checked before moving forward to working with them.
So they're local. Good. All right. That's all I had. I just wanted to ask because obviously it may come across as wires. It's like we're favoring a company, but I understand what you're saying now. But I just wanted to bring those questions up.
I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions from council, Leanne, did you want me to ask for public comment now or after you're done with 9.1?
Well, let me do 9.1 and then you can move forward with the items for each of the items. Okay, great. So the next piece of this project is the solar power purchase and site lease agreement with Juak Capital LLC. And Sizerco has assisted us with this project as well. So a little bit of background. There was a feasibility study completed by Sizerco, and they identified that we do have some places in Gilroy that could benefit from solar arrays for reduction of energy. And so through that assessment, a power purchase agreement was identified as the best method to achieve the savings without having to front any capital. Again, we're using the streamlined process allowed for under Government Code Section 4217, which is permissible for energy contracts for purchase of electricity. So again, we're focusing on goals of providing solar generation to reduce peak power usage, reducing our utilities costs, and also reducing environmental impacts, including the greenhouse gas emissions. So how does a PPA work? So the power purchase agreement provider pays for 100% of the project cost. Then they provide the ongoing maintenance and operational costs for the system. The agreement is for a 30-year term. The provider owns the equipment, and the city pays the provider for the power generated at a predefined price per kilowatt hour. But so in the power purchase agreement, the cost is less than what the city would pay the current provider for the same energy. And then after 30 years, we can either buy the equipment for $1, we could remove it, or we could upgrade and replace it and enter into a new agreement. It's up to us when that time comes. So there's been 4 sites identified for solar arrays. One is the City Hall Annex, which is just across Rosanna Street here. And it has a great opportunity for solar arrays that provide shaded parking in the parking areas of that property. The next site is at our corporation yard. There's an area in front of our fleet maintenance shop that would be ideal for putting some solar power arrays and allow for still parking of vehicles underneath. The next site, site number 3, is at the Sunrise Fire Station. It's a small area to the west of the property that is currently used for parking, and that would be another good site for solar arrays and, again, providing shade for vehicles. And then lastly, the 4th site is at Pump Station 6 at the northwest corner of Santa Teresa and Miller. There's a pump station up, kind of hidden back behind the trees there. You see it if you really look. And up on top of that structure would be a place identified for solar arrays. The proposals and terms. So Sizerco Energy Solutions solicited proposals on the city's behalf. They spoke with 5 providers, but actually I mistyped here. There's only actually 3 proposals received, 2 did not submit proposals. Juwak Capital offered the best benefit back to the city. It's a 30-year term at 0.1744 per kilowatt hour. Our current average rate is 0.28, so that's a considerable reduction. And then there's a 2% annual rate escalation where our current average rate escalation is 4%. So through those elements, we end up saving a lot of money on our energy costs. Juwak Capital is pre-qualified by the state of California to provide financing for these kinds of projects. The sites would generate 1,627 megawatt hours of power per year. There's no upfront funding required. Our annual average savings is $274,534. Over a 30-year term, the city will be saving $8.2 million. If our current provider rates increase more than 4%, which they have been trending that way, then our savings is even greater. There is some trees in the way of where the solar power arrays would need to go. So to accommodate the solar arrays, 15 trees would need to be removed across the street at the City Hall Annex, and 1 tree would need to be removed at the Sunrise Fire Station. And the plan includes planting 18 new trees at city parks to offset the trees being removed. We're very concerned about trees, and we don't like ever removing trees, but in this instance, we feel that the benefit outweighs, and we could replant trees at another location. To move forward with the power purchase agreement, a public hearing is required. Government Code 4217 and 4218 requires the following. So we have to determine that Juwak Capital provides the best value, and the data does support this determination. We have to hold a public hearing. We have to consider public comments at the scheduled public hearing, and then the council has to determine that implementing a power purchase agreement is in the best interest of the city. And in this case, solar energy costs will be less than what the city would pay in the absence of this project. So the next steps for the power purchase agreement are to finalize and execute the agreement and the power purchase and site lease agreement with Juwak Capital, which is final staff review and city attorney review, and then work with Sizerco to develop a project plan, schedule, and our implementation plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, before I go to questions though from council, I have to ask for disclosure of ex parte communications on this one. Okay, so I'm going to start with Councilmember Bracco. Any ex parte? Armendariz?
None.
Okay, none for me. No?
None.
No, and no. Okay, so everybody's saying no ex parte. Okay, so now, go ahead, Councilmember Norman.
Any questions on the power purchase agreement item?
Yes, Leanne, thank you. Glad to see there'll be a net gain of 2 trees in our city. We are
Yes.
Tree City, USA.
Yes, we are.
So we like that. But I did have a question. If you could go back, I think it was the second slide that you had. It might have been the second or third, with regard to the pricing issue. I like, there we go. So I like a lot of what I'm seeing here, but I just want to make sure that I fully understand. So if we're paying the provider at a predefined price, how are we ensured that the cost is going to be less than we would pay with our current provider? Just because we don't know what that current provider might charge at some point in the future.
That's certainly not the way it's trended, and we're looking at a 40-year history to come up with that information. And that's what led us to, the current average rate of 0.28 and looking at our history of energy in the recent past. And then we're locked at the 0.1744 from the service provider.
Got it. Okay, so that helps me understand it. It's not pegging to what the current provider might charge in the future, but just looking historically, we feel pretty good that we're going to be charged less.
We're probably being conservative.
Understood. And I think you're probably right. Okay, that helps me understand. Thank you.
Councilmember Marks.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm very pleased with this project. Anything to save money that we can use that extra money for something else is greatly warranted. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, okay, Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you, Mayor. No, and likewise, obviously, I'm excited about this. Leanne, and I'm trying to think back to my days on the school board. The school district did something very similar to this, right? I'm sure you've had, I voted on it, so I should remember. I just don't remember what year it was.
You should know better than I.
I know, right? I'm just trying to recall, where they're at. I don't know if you had a discussion in regards to the annual savings. I can't recall what that number is. But I know it's significant, and I'm glad that you pointed that out, because even if it's 8.2 million, it can still be much higher than that. So that in itself, and knowing, what it's done for like Gilroy High School and with the shade and the parking, and obviously saving a lot of money. So I'm all in favor of it. I just wanted to say, I remember we doing that for the school district, and it's been a wonderful project. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, then seeing no other questions, we're going to go back to 8.1. We're going to do that first. All right, and so I'm going to go to public comment first. Do we have any members of the public on 8.1?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I did receive one speaker card, and it's Marty Estrada.
Okay. He's waiting for the clock to start. Okay.
Okay, thank you, City Council. Does that include EV hubs for this energy pack that we're doing with climate? I think it's important for climate change that we start looking at some alternatives to support our community, especially our vulnerable, marginalized communities here in Gilroy, that's affecting them the most with climate change. So we're all for it. The other issue I wanted to bring up is back to what I was going to say in the beginning, since I can speak on any topic that I'm here. The person that did the invocation, he said two words that struck me. He says, let us do things with...
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to interrupt you because you're going into what we just said earlier you can't do. This is just for 8.1.
The city attorney says you can speak on any topic if you're speaking on a particular topic, right?
I think you misunderstood me. You can speak now on 8.1, which is the Cicerco Energy Solutions item that Leanne has been talking about. If you're talking about that, please continue. If you're talking about something else, then I think you'd be out of order.
Oh, okay.
At this time.
Okay, let me go back to what I was saying. In terms of climate change, it's important that we start focusing, whatever party you fall on, whether Republican, Democrat, it's irrelevant. We need to support the issues that related to climate change here in our county. Gilroy has the most air quality pollution, poor quality pollution here in the county. We have the less resources in the county for that. And then we got the higher heat index. We have more heat days than anybody else in the county. So we need to start thinking about our marginalized communities and how we can benefit and support them during these fires and these heat exchanges that are going to be happening. Our cooling centers, we need to have an action plan for the cooling centers when there's a power outage in Gilroy, because it affects our seniors the most and then our marginalized communities. So I think we need to start thinking about an action plan on how we can better support that and decarbonize the issues that we have here in Gilroy. And I appreciate Hilton bringing out the fact that there's a plan in place to support some of that endeavor. So I would encourage the council, think about that. I know climate change is a big issue for a lot of folks, especially it's a red ticket for Republicans. But outside of that, think about how it's affecting Gilroy. It's affecting Gilroy more than anybody else in the county. You look at Silicon Valley 2.0. It's a good roadmap to show you how it affects the most marginalized communities in our area. And Gilroy is the #1 ticket on that spot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
No speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so back to council. So what we need first from council is a motion on item 1, and that will be a roll call vote, so don't jump to the
So
digital
moved.
screen. Okay, so that was a motion by, was it Councilmember Armandaris?
Yes.
Seconded by Councilmember Tovar to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Gilroy amending the fiscal year 23 budget to appropriate $3,685,718 for the Energy Conservation Measures Project.
Councilmember Armendariz?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Leader Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blinkley.
Yes, so that passed unanimously. Now, the next motion can be all 2 through 4 together, and that is digital voting, if anybody wants to make a
So
motion
moved.
there.
Second. Oh,
Okay,
ahead,
motion
Karen.
made by Councilmember Tovar. Who is the second?
Carol.
me.
Okay, second by Councilmember Marks. This is digital, so,
You should state what they are, please.
okay, state what they are. Okay, this is a motion to award an energy services contract in the amount of $3,685,718 to Sicerco Energy Solutions for energy conservation measures pursuant to California Government Code Section 4217.16, which will be fully reimbursed by PG&E under their on-bill financing program, and to authorize the city administrator to enter into an on-bill financing and reimbursement agreement with PG&E in the amount of $3,685,718, and to authorize the city administrator to finalize and execute the related contract documents and approve any future change orders and items within the approved project budget. Okay, and that passes unanimously. Okay, so now 9.1, we'll handle the same. So first, any members of the public wishing to speak on this?
Yes, Madam Mayor, but could you actually
Okay.
open the public hearing?
Yes, so I'm opening the public hearing at 7:01. And how many speakers do we have?
Actually, we have none.
We have none? Oh,
Yes.
so closing at 7:01 as well. Okay, this too can be a motion for 1, 2, and 3 together, if anybody is so inclined.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Armandaris and seconded by Councilmember Marks. Ty, do you want to read all these three, or you want me to keep reading them?
I'll go ahead and read it
Okay,
on your behalf.
thanks.
So the motion is to adopt a resolution to enter into a power purchase agreement, PPA, and site lease with Jewel Capital LLC pursuant to California Government Code Section 4217.12, making findings that the cost will be less than what the city will pay in the absence of the project, and authorize the city administrator for his designee to complete final negotiations and execute a power purchase agreement and site lease agreement with Jewel Capital LLC.
Okay, and that's
Councilmember Armandaris?
right.
Yes.
Councilmember Bracco?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Leader Munoz?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Tovar?
Yes.
And Mayor Blinkley.
Yes, that also passes unanimously. All right, that brings us to 10.1, which is appointments of Parks and Rec, appointment to the Parks and Rec Commission and to the Youth Commission. We did the interviews at the last meeting, so I'm going to go down the list. We've all got the names in front of you, but I'm just going to ask, and I'll put a tally for where everybody's voting. All right, we have 1 seat on Parks and Rec, and we have 6 seats on the Youth Commission. And I think everybody was notified of the one Youth Commission applicant that actually doesn't qualify. So hopefully you are aware of that before you vote. Okay, so I will start with Councilmember Bracco for Parks and Rec.
Luis Ramirez.
Okay, Rebecca Armendariz,
Luis Ramirez.
Councilmember Hilton,
Luis.
Councilmember Leroy Munoz,
Luis?
Councilmember Marks,
Luis.
Councilmember Tovar.
Luis.
I call him Louis, but okay, Luis. All right, that passed, so he got 7 votes, okay? So he is our new, okay, pretty sure his wife calls him Louis too, just so you guys know. Okay, all right, for Youth Commission, I know. For Youth Commission, Councilmember Bracco, you don't have to vote for 6, but there are 6 seats.
Well, we have 6 names, so I'll pick
Okay,
all 6.
so you want to take all 6? Okay, Councilmember Armandaris,
Same.
Councilmember Hilton,
I'm taking 4. It's
Okay.
Sophie, James, Alfred, and Winston.
Alfred and Winston, okay. Councilmember Leroy Munoz?
Yeah, I actually count 7. Maybe I'm getting it
Yeah,
wrong here.
well, the first one, Emily doesn't qualify.
Oh, that's right.
That's why.
Okay, then there we go. Then yes, then it'll be Sophie, James, Destiny, Michael, Alfred, and Winston.
Okay. Councilmember Marks?
I will take the 6.
Councilmember Tovar?
Same, all 6.
Okay, and I'm taking 6. So it's unanimous for the, it's 6 for 6 and 1 for 4.
So,
Do you, so there-
Yes,
is
I
that
had the
good
same
enough?
thing.
Yeah,
So it looks
So
like,
the 6 got on.
Yes, all the 6, Sophie, James, Destiny, Michael, Alfred, and Winston.
Right. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for applying.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. That brings us to agenda item 11.1. And that is one where I do the staff report. And so I want to say on that, basically what I said at the last meeting. So I just want to reiterate what 11.1 is. As council members, we have heard the many voices who have questions about the financial consequences already brought on the city and criticism for remaining silent while the recall effort proceeds and financial burdens to the public continue to mount. The overwhelming outcry that we as a city council do something to protect the city and the continued insistence from members of the public that we can do something are difficult to address when only the democratic process of an election can bring about or remove a council member. However, as stewards of the city and in the financial interest of the public, I have asked that we consider making a formal request for the resignation of Councilmember Armendariz should the recall qualify, the recall petition, should it qualify for the ballot, and before the public faces the cost of a special election that could have been avoided. So that's the item. I'm going to ask council if there's any discussion on that, and then when we go to public comment, I'm going to ask, because we have a lot of people I think that want to speak, that we please all be respectful. We want to hear from everybody, so be heard and say what it is you want to say within the time frame, which is likely going to be 1 minute each, without the need, with the same amount of respect that you would like for yourself. Okay, if you could please just do that, then we can all not have anything be disruptive or intimidating or anything of the sort, and everyone will have a chance to say what it is they wish to say. Okay, so looking to council first, council discussion. Councilmember Tovar?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the clarification on this request here. Should it move forward? That's an important thing. In regards to do we know what the estimated cost would be? I know there's been a couple figures thrown out there, but if it were to move forward, what would it cost the taxpayers? Do we know that actual amount?
It's a range. Tide, I don't know, do you want to speak to that? It's a range that we're not going to know.
Yes,
until-
it is currently arranged because it will be a special election.
Right.
And given if it's a special election, if it's a standalone special election, it will range from $1.4 to $2.1 million. However, if there is a consolidated special election, which means that if other cities or other jurisdictions within Santa Clara County also consolidate with that special date, that's particularly in March, the cost could be substantially less, but that number is not known. So the number is going to fluctuate. So right now, the conservative estimate is right now to 1.4 to 2.1.
And that cost would go to the taxpayers, right?
That is correct. We as a city have
and that
to
is
bear that
why,
burden. Yeah.
right,
No,
that's why this, if
yeah.
it qualifies.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Hilton, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor Blankley, for bringing this item in front of us tonight. I've got no problem with the recall process. That's a part of democracy, but the burden should remain on the campaign committee. The objective should have been working towards a June 5th deadline, knowing that the city clerk has 30 days to validate, and to try to make it by the July 6th deadline for ballot initiatives to be placed on the general election ballot, which in March of 2022, according to the city clerk's letter, was approximately $35,000. Additionally, from that letter, it states the city clerk's office is built on transparency, impartiality, and public trust, and is responsible for complying with California State Election Code and local ordinances. It is the opinion of the election official and the city attorney that a mail-in ballot is not an option for a recall election in Gilroy per the California Elections Code. As we just heard, a standalone vote center and mail-in ballot election is estimated to cost $1.2 to $2 million. The burden should not be transferred over to this city council or an elected council member. The recall is focused on. If you didn't realize that the deadlines had financial implications, then that's on the recall committee. I abstain from this item being on a future agenda item, and for those reasons, I'll be abstaining again tonight. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Leroy Munoz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So really, we have a difficult question that we have to talk about today. And the way I'm kind of looking at this is that every leader up here on this dais, every leader in our community, whether it's staff, law enforcement, emergency response, volunteers, whatever, we all have to decide how we can best serve our city. And each person has different circumstances, different skill sets, different challenges that everybody faces. They're all unique, and everyone has to make that decision for themselves. How do we best serve our city? Looking out over all of you, just the sample of the city that we have here today, we can see it's clearly divided. We know that there's some people wearing yellow, there's some people wearing red. We get that. And I think the challenge is, for us, we've been dealing with this issue now for close to a year. We're coming up on a year now. And it still feels a year later that we haven't been able to kind of move past things as a community. And I think that, as I said earlier, leaders have to decide how best they can serve the community. Retaining a role up on the dais that leads to this kind of division, that prompts a recall effort, that's a very real thing. And I think that we haven't yet really begun the process of healing as a community as a result of that. So what we're discussing today is asking the council member if she would voluntarily resign. That's the issue today. We can't force her to do that. Ultimately, that's her decision. But it would be my hope that as a leader, that she would be willing to take that under very real consideration and help us all move past this as a community. So I think that's the discussion we're all here to have tonight.
All right, thank you. Any other comments before I go to public comment? Okay, so how many people do you have?
I
A
currently
lot?
have 20 speaker cards at the moment, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so we'll do 1 minute each. And when your name is called, you want to call 5 at a time and have them sit up here?
Yes,
or
Madam
How
Mayor.
do you want to do that? Okay.
Yes, can we have actually the first 10 come up to the front, and then we'll call the
Sitting?
first 5. Yes, in
I
the
don't
front
see
over there.
10 seats, but okay. I see 8 seats.
Oh, 8, okay. We'll just do 8.
Do 8, yeah.
First one will be Iris Mong, followed by Gabriella Mendoza, followed by Cesar Santillan, followed by Hazel Quintero, followed by Raimundo Armendares, followed by Marty Estrada, followed by Jacqueline Castillo, followed by Jill Giambattista.
Okay, so the first person can go ahead and come on up. And you should have the timer right there next to you. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Iris Monje, and I'm here to support Armendaris Rebecca here. Do not resign. You're a Latina community. You represent our Latina community. Without you, we don't have a voice. We're here for you. We love you, and we stand by you. Okay? That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Gabriella Mendoza.
Hello, good evening. You're all making a huge mistake in wanting Armendaris out of the city council. Armendaris is a positive Chicana from Gilas, Latina, single mother, demonstrating all the young Chicanas in Gilroy that no matter what ethnicity, culture, broken home, and their financial status might be, they can too work hard and service and make a difference in their community. That they too can sit up there with the mayor and be a city council member. Armendaris is not only a positive example for all Latina Chicana single mothers like me, but also she is the voice of the population in the Gilroy that is underserved. She is the voice of the homeless. She is the voice of the LGBTQ community, and she is the voice of the Latino population, in which the Latino population is a majority in Gilroy. I highly doubt that if any of you council members and mayor would have been disrespected the way Armendaris and Hilton were disrespected last city council meeting, I'm sure that any of you would have felt the same way Armendaris and Hilton felt. I want to
I'm sorry,
acknowledge city
your
council
time is up.
members,
I'm sorry.
Armendaris and Hilton,
Okay.
for your courageous
This is
and
considered a
professionalism.
warning for
Thank you.
people. You have to all respect the time, okay? Otherwise,
Thank you.
You're welcome, but 1 minute, the time is the time for everybody, okay? The next speaker?
Hazel Quintero.
Hi, City Council members. I'm here not to support kicking off Rebecca Armendaris from City Council. I'm here to give my story. Rebecca has been honestly my main motivator in life and someone who I look up to as a Latina young woman. And she's one of the strongest mentors I know. Rebecca's this glue of our community. She represents every minority here in Gilroy that our city is made up of. Agriculturalists, food workers, the homeless community, the LGBTQ community, low-income families, and everyone else. Those are the people that Rebecca represents and fights for. Please take this into consideration because it's not only the people who are against her that don't need her, but the people who need her are the ones in need for resources and advocacy that she provides for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Marty Estrada.
Mayor and council members, I was appalled last time you guys had the meeting here, the last council meeting, where a gentleman from this community spoke up and threatened Mr. Hilton and Ms. Armendariz. That was told and called for. But you as leaders up there should have took the stand and says, nobody should come up here and make a threat. Instead, it's divisive. I can see the divisiveness. And Mayor, for you to come out with this shenanigan political statement, you could have went to Armendariz privately and says, hey, would you be willing to resign? You didn't do that. You wanted to put it out publicly. It shows more divisiveness from you. You know, the person that gave the incommodation, he said this. He says, you know, let us do things with character and integrity. If we have any integrity, think about this. Do things with integrity. Show some compassion, some love. Show that. Because, listen, we're all in it together with all the stuff that's happening in the world, wars and the floods and people dying in Florida. Show a little compassion. Show a little love to each other.
I'm sorry.
Work together.
Your time is up. Thank
Work together.
you.
Thank you.
Next speaker?
Jill Giambastista, followed by Sal Gonzalez, followed by Miguel M. Correa.
No,
Followed-
because none of them are the ones sitting here.
Then
The
that
first
was the
8
order.
still, your names were called earlier, right? That's why you came here? We've only gone through 5.
5.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and speak and just say, if you would say your name, okay?
My apologies, Madam Mayor.
Okay,
Hello, my name is Cesar Santillan. I'm a 16-year-old
but do start the clock.
student, and I've been in a shootout, and I'd like to know all these people that have recall. Have you ever talked to Mikey? Have you ever seen him cry, seen him laugh? Dad, I feel like crying. Like that
Sir,
was
you're supposed to be addressing the
that was
council.
my best friend, and to be honest, I would want her. Please do not resign, please. Okay. And you guys really need to have a youth center, please. Like, I'm sorry.
Okay, I've asked once for the no clapping.
Please. My friend can't walk no more. You guys, what does it take for you guys to listen? For me to die? Have you checked up on it? It was right here. You guys never cared. September 17th, a shootout. You guys don't care. 15 years old. You guys, what does it take for me to die? All these kids are dying. Please. Please have a youth center, please. Thank you.
All right, next speaker. Yeah, please do say your name. Thank you, just because, yeah. Okay, we need the timer.
Good evening, council. Once again, my name is Raimundo Armendariz. I'm the executive director at Caras. I'm here to voice my support for Rebecca Armendariz to remain on the Gilroy City Council and to continue to represent the Latino community. I'm here tonight to remind the entire council, including the disturbed individual and all of his supporters, that Rebecca is supported by a majority of voters in Gilroy and overwhelmingly in the Latino community. Neither the mayor nor any of the conservative and racist elements in town speak for the Latino community. Countless Latino community members have reached out to me, some of whom are in the room tonight, to tell me that they support Rebecca and have told her critics so when approached about recalling her during their petition. They have also committed to re-electing her once her current term is over. Gilroy is a Latino majority city, let me remind you all of that. That's how Rebecca was elected in the first place, and because of that majority, our city will support her work and still do. The majority of our community wants wants to see more Latinos elected officials that represent them and prioritize issues that are important to them. The Latino community continues to support Rebecca and will remember those who wasted our time and tax dollars to
Okay,
try and
I'm
move her
sorry,
to the
your
next
time is
elections.
up. Thank you.
I
Thank
still
you,
have 30
though.
seconds when you called it, so I'm going to take those 3 seconds. Somebody mentioned earlier the recall will be 1.4 million to
Okay.
$2.1 million.
Thank
They
you.
didn't say that.
Next speaker. And please, when you're done speaking, please not, yeah, thank you. And, Okay, I didn't. It was 0 time. Okay.
Hi, City Council. My name is Jackie Castillo, and I did write something, but it's going to come from the heart. So what I do want to say is that Rebecca is an amazing human being, and she's helped so many Latinos in our community, and that's why she's here today, because so many of our Latino families have voted for her, right? And if all of you guys should know that 60 or more % of Latinos represent the city, right, of Gilroy. I also want to say that you shouldn't resign. You shouldn't. And you shouldn't be asking her to resign. You shouldn't really be asking her as a leader to resign, right? So what I see from the city council as a young member in this community is that you guys don't really support each other. That's what I see. You know, well, all you guys see is fake news from what Rebecca's shooting. It's fake news. Have you guys heard of that? Yeah, you don't really know what happened, right? She was never there, right? I just need you guys to know that she does represent a big part of this community, and especially youth. She helps out, comes to our center. She goes feeds homelesses, not just cooks for them. She gives them clothes, shoes, everything. What you guys don't see, it's not on cameras, right? Because she does it on her own time, because she really cares. She has a heart,
Okay.
right? She's human.
And
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next, the next speaker, or do you want to line it up?
Yes.
Okay. She doesn't have time. He didn't set the timer, and so, yeah. Okay.
Jill Giambastista, Saul Gonzalez, Miguel M. Correa, Bill James, Ron Kirkish.
Okay, if your
Valentina
name was
Ornelas,
called, just please come on
Linda
up and
Polito.
sit, and then if we could have the timer go so our next speaker could start.
Yes. Linda Polito, followed by Kelly Ramirez, followed by
I think that's
Phil
more than
Larson.
8. Okay. That's what I said. Go
Hello,
ahead.
everybody. My
Yes.
name is Saul Gonzalez. I'm a resident of Gilroy. My mom lives in Gilroy. I grew up in Gilroy. I met Rebecca at Moxa at the youth center back in the day when it's glorious days, when Moxa, the Mexican American Community Service Agency, was serving this community. I am here to tell you, Rebecca, lead on, lead straight, lead forward, as you always have been. The reality is that politics will exist and people will always oppose because they carry their own agenda. But you are more than a friend, you're a colleague, you're a mentor for so many in Gilroy, you're an advocate for the Latino community. You speak on behalf of those that do not have a voice. And for that I must say, and I plead you, do not ever consider resignation, because I know that that word is not even in your vocabulary. So because of that, I'm here as a friend to support you, I'm here as a colleague. I also work for the city. I'm not going to mention which city, just to remain anonymous.
Okay, your time is up. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Okay,
time.
next speaker? Maybe just, do you want them just to go?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. If you were already called once, go ahead and just come up to the podium. And if you could, just say your name.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Bill
The time is
James.
up there. Go ahead.
I'm Bill James. I'm chair of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party. I urge the council not to take the contemplated action of this item. Your own staff memo from the mayor states the obvious, that the only way really to know whether there's a majority in the community who would like to recall Councilmember Armendariz is to go through the process. And asking her or any other of your members to subvert that process by providing basically political pressure to resign is inappropriate. We've had a lot of recall attempts going on in the county in this past year. Some didn't like that their schools were making masks be worn. Some didn't like that they weren't doing it often enough, or that they were doing it too much. And if all those members had resigned, we would have decimated our councils. So I urge you to not take this action, leave it to the voters. Whether there's a majority, maybe not here at your meetings complaining about this event, whether there's a majority or not can only be decided by an election.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Hello, Mayor, Council, Community. My name is Ron Kirkish, and I encourage you to take this action. The community does not want to spend $1.2 million if not necessary. And if we do get the number of signatures, there will be no choice. So it does behoove you to consider asking the city councilwoman to resign for the fact that it would save this community $1.2 million or more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Linda Polito, business owner, Gilroy resident. You know, it was important for me to be here just because I work a lot with the youth and I do a lot of community work, and I don't think that being in a chair, you have to just help the community. I think you can help the community whether you're sitting up there or sitting down there. I don't think that has anything to do with her not helping you. I think she'll continue to help, but I think the thing is to make the right decision, because it'll affect our future. Your decision and the decision that you have to make is going to affect Gilroy and everyone else. And I am very confident that you guys will make the right choice. Ms. Almendarez, I think you need to hold your head up high, make the right decision, and walk out with a little dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
When I came in here, my son used to be a city councilman like you guys in 2002. There was prejudices against my son because I was Mexican Filipino. Threats is like when I come in here and they say, wear this shirt, separate and divide and conquer. You guys should know about that a lot. Leon, you guys, hey, I stand with this young lady, this young Chicana, that what inspires our people, but inspires not just our people, inspires all of these. History, without history, we are nothing of our past. Our past is, that's why we are here. Hey, we've had enough of being down. Again, I stand with Rebecca and her family, Caras, what they've done, and also on this, Tucker said about the multi-purpose, they should have done that when they were doing the youth center. Look at what Morgan Hill has. Look at what we have here. Hey, I'm a disabled veteran. I fought back for this. Hey, I'm tired of this prejudice. Just because I can pass, guess what?
I'm sorry, sir.
My soul doesn't pass.
Thank you. Time is up. Okay, you want to call the next group?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I stated some other names, but they did not come up to the podium.
Okay.
That was Jill Giambastista, Valentina Ranelles, Kelly Ramirez, and I'm just making sure, was that Mr. Phil Larson that was previously there?
I didn't hear any of those names before. No, I didn't either. Okay. Okay, so go ahead. So you just called them.
So Jill Giambastista is the first one?
Well, I don't see a Jill, so do you have any others you want to call, Ty? Because that's only three.
Valentina Ranelles, followed by Kelly Ramirez.
Hi, my name is Valentina Renales. Hello again. So
Timer.
as you see these
Timer.
people in yellow, very bright, I also first read it and I was like, dude, she's got to resign. Like, what's going on? Like, this is crazy. But after attending the meetings and after hearing how council members behave and how they act and how they continue to say that the population is gangbangers and drug addicts, and I'm part of that population, you can shake your head all you want. It's okay. You guys really got to fix your faces. You're in public. When people talk and you don't agree with it, it shows. You're elected officials that represent all of us, whether you agree with us or not, fix your face. Anyways, now, after being exposed to that, I 100% implore you, do not step down Rebecca Armiandes. Without you, there is no representation for the Latino community. I am white, but guess what? My babies are brown. And I stand behind you, whatever you need. And for all of these people that continue spewing that hate, check yourself. It is not appropriate. It is unacceptable. And I implore you to follow up with your constituents and
I'm
give the
sorry,
correct
Valentina.
information.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Ms.
Just
Kelly
wanna-
Ramirez.
Good evening, Council. My name is Kelly Ramirez, and I'm here because based on the independent investigation that wasn't released until mid-April, it found that evidence that Ms. Armendariz fully participated in the planning and execution of this large-scale party, that she was present during the entire duration. The investigators stated that Ms. Armendariz was uncooperative during the investigation and refused to answer questions. And on numerous occasions, the investigator referred to her as lacking credibility. We have been collecting signatures, and the two questions we're constantly asked is, why has she not resigned, for which we do not have the answer to, and why hasn't the council done something? On behalf of the committee, as well as the broader community, we ask that the council responds to the outrage of the community by voting to formally ask Ms. Armendariz for her resignation or do a vote of no confidence. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker. Okay, please, in the audience, we're trying to be respectful. Thank you.
My name is Phil Larson, and I want the council as well as the crowd here to consider that I live in the county, in the rural area, as Ms. Armendariz. Twice, we have had situations that could have turned out the same way, where we thought everything was hunky-dory, but my daughter planned a party when she was in high school, and then the word spread, and a bunch of boys showed up where they were refused entry, but they went all around the house and made noise, they stayed and drank outside. This could have happened to me, and I have no idea that Ms. Armendariz knew that there was anything imminent, that there was any kind of warning that shots were about to be fired. My limited knowledge of
I'm
her,
sorry,
I've
Phil,
only
the time
met her
is up.
once.
Your time is already up. Sorry,
I
thank you.
admire her.
Next speaker.
The next following speakers are Esperanza Sid, Vanessa Ashford, Elia Salinas, Tracy Hill, Olga Martinez, Kelly Almendarez, and Jeff Unadia.
Okay, if your name was called, please come sit in the front row and go ahead with the first speaker and the timer.
Hi, good evening, City Council. My name's Esperanza Sid, and I'm a third generation here in Gilroy. And I had a whole thing written up as well, but I have 4 boys. 2 of them are adults. We've known Rebecca for about 20 years. My oldest son is a college graduate. My second son is his 3rd year at Arizona State, and I have a 10th grader and a 3rd grader. My 3rd grader has his Captain America wallet with Rebecca's city council card. And, you know, she's just, what she's brought to my family is her community advocacy at levels that I may never attain. But she got my boys involved. They have collected shoes for the homeless. She has written them letters of recommendations for every scholarship they have received and made their higher education possible. And so I supported you, I walked for you, I made calls for you. All of my family, my friends, and the hundreds here in Gilroy will continue to stand with you.
I'm sorry, the time
Thank
is
you.
up. Thank you, though. Next speaker. Okay.
My name is Vanessa Ashford, and what I was going to say doesn't really matter. What matters to me is what Caesar said, and what I have seen from this recall effort is a lack of listening to our youth and what our youth want. When I talk to our youth that were at the shooting, that were impacted by the shooting, they do not want Rebecca gone. They do not hold her responsible. What troubles me is that we are focusing so much on a recall election and a symptom of a much deeper problem. That shooting would have happened, regardless of if it happened at Rebecca's. There were threats at the football game. There was gang activity or conflict throughout the city. It was going to happen. It's happening now. My 6th grader got in the car and said, all these kids know how to do is choose violence. 11 years old. Rebecca has tirelessly advocated for funding, for programs to equalize our community. And what I see this council doing, Peter, is dividing. You're a Democrat. I voted
Okay,
for you.
your time is
because
up.
you
Your
said
time
you'd help our youth.
is up. Vanessa, thank you. All right, next speaker. Next speaker. Whoever is here in this row, you can go ahead and take the podium. Go ahead. Yeah, there's no order to the speakers. Sorry. And the timer, please.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Oh, there it is.
Mhm.
Okay, so I have been a community member. This is my hometown since 1967. And I am Chicana, okay? This is the issue. The issue is that Ms. Armendariz has not shown compassion. You had public comment asking you for compassion. Where was her compassion? For the deceased and for accountability for the actions. Be responsible. No one that's that's involved with this recall that I'm aware of is taking away from what she has done in the past. What they are asking for is that she be responsible for the actions that occurred that day. She abused the position as a city council member, did not go through the proper channels to get permits. This was not her first party she had there. There was marijuana.
Okay, I'm
and
sorry.
there was
It's
liquor.
the time is up. Okay, people in the audience, please. I've done a pretty good job keeping everybody to the minute, so thank you. Okay? Yes.
This is my first experience coming to city council.
Okay, so the
I
timer's
cannot
right
believe-
there.
I cannot believe that you have this on the ballot. This is cruel and no compassion for her. How can you sit there and do what you're doing? You have supposedly, the community wants her out. Well, October 15th is the day for voting. Why can't you let it go and wait and see what the community has to say? Why do you have to keep harping on her? That's mean. That's no compassion. And you should resign. The first person to resign. And you next, and you next. What is wrong with you people? Where's your compassion? And you're supposed to serve the community? What are we looking at? What are you showing these people? Why can't you let it go and leave it on the ballot? No, she should not resign. I'm ashamed of all of you. It's embarrassing to have you in. as
Okay, your
part.
time
It
is up. Thank you, though. All right, next speaker.
Hello, good evening. My name is Tracy Hill. Rebecca has shown that she is not capable to serve the citizens of Gilroy. She has caused more division in our city. Rebecca does not value our youth. If she did, she would not have had a party at her house that had marijuana and alcohol there. She is not a positive role model. You wonder, the financial burden falls on Rebecca's actions, not on the recall. If Rebecca would resign and show faith and face her actions, then we wouldn't have to do the recall. I also believe that Rebecca's already cost the city at least $50,000 with that independent investigation. Why is the city paying for that? Why isn't the city bill her for that amount as well? And the last question is, I wonder if the dead could speak, would they want your resignation? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker. Okay. Yeah, okay. I don't use this very often, so I got a chance. All right. All right, please, go ahead.
Mayor, City Council members, thank you for your time and your service. My name's Jeff Unadia. I'm a retired San Jose firefighter of 35 years. As a former public servant, the citizens gave us a certain amount of trust, expecting us to serve the community with their best interest. First responders are held to a higher standard. We are held responsible for our actions on and off duty. We are expected to do the right thing. Whether we liked it or not, we were role models. City Council is expected to do the right thing. You guys are role models. We have young people watching tonight. We have a lot of young people watching here tonight, and they are influenced by what's going on here. You are accountable for your actions on and off working hours. It's called integrity. In the beginning of the meeting, we all said the Pledge of Allegiance. I was really moved by the phrase, and justice for all. That's what I want. I want justice for the two young people that senselessly were killed.
I'm sorry, the time is up. Thank you, though. Thank you for speaking. Okay, do you have, I assume there are more?
Yes, I have Sally Armendariz followed by Anastasia Boyd.
Okay. And you both, thank you. And set the timer? Okay.
Okay, I want to make sure you can hear me. As you know, my name is Sally Armendariz, and I'm here as a proud Gilroyan. I wear my Gilroy strong shirt with pride and still wear my Gilroy High School ring 1961. Like I said, I'm a proud Gilroyan. In the almost 80 years, because I'll be 80 pretty soon, of living in Gilroy, I have never been so disgusted as I feel today, because how the mayor undoubtful racist performance and recognition of the people she represents, How dare you allow a member of the public insult and threaten other council members and not immediately put a stop to it? In the past, you have told those of us who speak up that we have a minute and that we have a minute and that you can turn off the microphone if we keep talking. However, you allowed this disgraceful attack on your fellow council
I'm
person.
sorry,
and did
your
nothing
time is
about it.
up, Sally.
What South County Democrat
Okay.
Party does in their
The next
meetings
speaker,
is not
please.
decided by this city.
Okay. Your time is up. Should be escorted out? What? Okay. What? Okay, your time is up. I'm just like everybody else. You're just given the same amount of time as everybody else. Okay?
Hello, my name is Anastasia. I have never spoken on here. I've never felt the need to, but Rebecca is a big role model for me in my life. She put me in when I got kicked out. She helped me through a lot of issues in my life, and I have watched her personally help so many people, given clothes to so many homeless. I've helped her and her family give out food. She is a role model, and I don't know why they can't see it. They're the ones spending the money. They're the ones wanting the money spent. So it's on them. It's not on you. I think this is disgusting. This is so much. I was at the shooting, and I don't know what they're saying, but it's just wrong. It's just wrong, and I cannot believe that they can come up here and spew these stupid facts that aren't real when I was there, when there are people that were there and witnessed that, and it was disgusting.
Okay, thank you. The time is up. Do we have any more speakers? Ty?
I have no other speaker cards, Madam Mayor.
Okay, closing the public comment. All right, so comes back to council. There are two possible actions for the council. One is to direct me to prepare a formal request for resignation should the recall petition qualify.
Could I say
Or
something,
not.
Mayor? Could I
Certainly.
say something? Is it too late?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I appreciate all of you who are here tonight. I appreciate the youth of my community for giving me hope and inspiration, for working so hard in despite the circumstances, to do better and to be better and to help your community the way you do. I didn't ask for this recall, just like I didn't ask for that party. I think the folks who want the recall, as much as I appreciate their engagement in the community and their, the democratic process, they have every right and opportunity to withdraw their petition at any time. The money that could be used, the money that's going to be used for this election, we could use for the unhoused, we could use for our seniors, we could use for our youth, right? We could use that. And I think this council, those of you who are asking me to resign, need to stop and take a look at what you've done for our youth, not since a year ago, not since 8 years ago. What have you done in total to prevent youth violence? What have you done to prevent violence at all? Every time we try to do something for people to lock up their guns, you vote it down. Every time we try to get funding for programs, you overanalyze and try to shoot down ideas and don't pay attention to the youth who come and speak here. I think it's incredibly hypocritical to ask me to do this when you don't represent the community that I represent. You don't represent the thousands of people who voted to have me elected. The hundreds of people who reach out to me and tell me not to resign, you don't represent them or they wouldn't be asking that of me. So I thank you all. I will not be resigning, and I hope that we can reprioritize so that youth programs, prevention programs, violence prevention programs, and more, right?
that kind of investment can be made in our community instead of this focus on me or this very divisive partisan politics. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, so it's back to council.
Mayor,
Do you want to?
if I may, and again,
Sure.
I take offense to some of the comments that were made. As a Latino Democrat, just so you guys know, I'm Latino as well. I have over 18 years of public service, and I put my record up against anybody for the work that I've done with youth and with seniors and getting kids into college. So to say that we don't represent the Latino community is a lie, and I get offended every time I hear that, okay? Because I've done so much work in my 18 years. When someone tells me I'm not Latino, I'm not a Democrat, and I don't do stuff for kids or for youth I represent the entire city of Gilroy, right? And for someone to come up here and say that to me or attack me like that, and I've been attacked, as you all know, and I've handled it with compassion, integrity, and with respect. But when I continue to hear these words, and hearing that it's not decisive, it is. It divides this community, okay? I'm in favor of wherever this recall goes. I'm thinking about the families that lost these two individuals that I've had conversations with family members. That's where I'm thinking. I'm trying to represent the entire community. But what I don't like is when folks come up here, or my fellow council members attacking me, telling me who I'm not when I know I am. I take offense to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I didn't want to try to interrupt. I just would like to try to rein us in because that very kind of thing is what's divisive. You know, this is not about what we have done for youth or what we have done right. This is about a very specific thing, and so that's what we're trying to keep this to. Councilmember Bracco.
Yes, I just want to say that thank you for bringing this up, Mayor. Ever since a year ago or wherever it was when this happened, we've received phone calls, emails, some of them very unpleasant, asking why we're not doing anything, why we're not making our voices known. I myself, I think most of us up here have stayed back from it and not commented on it and tried to stay out of it. But tonight we have to, as leaders of this community, we have to make a decision. And, you know, there's been a lot of things said about Roland Velasco and about me. Nobody else has anything to do with what happened that night. So to try to bring up other incidents that have happened in Gilroy and stuff that has nothing to do with it doesn't help at all. So we have to make our decision tonight. I would hope that the council member thinks about it and how the community is, all of the community, not just one part of the community. And Rebecca knows I'm friends with Rebecca. I've known the Armendariz family most of my life. And this is a hard decision. And I mean, it's nothing personal against you. It's because of the position you hold. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Councilmember LaRomanos.
I'll just jump in very briefly here, again, trying to sum up a lot of what we've heard tonight. Councilmember Tovar spoke very passionately and I think correctly as to issues that divide us more than unify us. We represent an entire community, and that's a diverse community that finds diversity in all neighborhoods. No one person speaks for that community. No one person can claim to have divined what it is to be of a certain group or not. We all work in the best interest of Gilroy. And all of us come with many different backgrounds from many different places to serve up here. Now, with regard to the question at hand, I've heard a lot about compassion. That was a big issue, and I think we're all looking for compassion, whichever side people might be thinking about. But compassion really is at the heart of what we're trying to do here today. and it's compassion for those who were intimately affected on the night of the incident. It's the compassion for the community that still grieves and hasn't yet been able to move on through this. What we're asking for, we can't force anybody. We can't legally do that. All we're asking is that the council member consider resigning of her own volition. Only she can make that choice. And again, we all exercise leadership in different ways. And we heard from many of the youth who have worked with her, who have had great experiences in seeing the work that she's done. That work doesn't have to end if she's not sitting on this dais. There are a lot of ways that people can continue to serve and grow and learn in the community. And that's still very much up to all of us. We all have to learn from our experiences and sometimes, yes, our mistakes. But there's also accountability. The community has to know that we can be trusted to do the right thing. And sometimes that means putting the interest of the community over that of ourselves. And so again, that's the decision that we have to make tonight. Again, speaking similar to what Councilmember Bracco shared, it's absolutely nothing personal. I have tremendous respect for the work that you've done in the community through the years, for sure. But I think we have to look at where we are as a city at this moment and what we need to do to heal as a city in this moment.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Marks. Councilmember Marks. We don't have people yelling from the audience. Councilmember Marks, you can go ahead and speak. Councilmember Marks. Councilmember
You know,
Marks.
tonight, two of my fellow council members knew I was uncomfortable with this topic because I firmly believe this topic should not have been brought up until the number of signatures were gathered. And we wouldn't have the divisiveness and the hatred that has been shown in this room tonight. It's been hard to sit here and listen to it. And you have to remember that even if we say that we recommend for Councilmember Armendariz to resign, it's not a mandate, it's not an order. We cannot force her to do anything. At that time, we would just be saying that would be our recommendation to save the taxpayers' money. That's all it is. She can say no at any time. We are not forcing her, Olga. We are not forcing
Okay,
her.
we're not directing
Okay.
comments at
But
specific
I'm tired
people.
of the shouting back and forth. This has been an awful night. I mean, we've been accused of saying things we haven't said. We've been accused of action stop. This should not have happened tonight. It should have been after the signatures were turned in.
Okay, so we're back to council. There is no action being proposed other than once the signatures qualify. So okay, council members have all spoken, and so what I am looking for is direction from, if there is someone who would like to suggest, this isn't really a motion thing, or it doesn't read here like a motion. I just need direction as to whether or not I am to prepare a formal request for the resignation should the recall petition qualify. So it's not something that would go anywhere unless and until the recall petition qualifies.
So thumbs up, thumbs down?
I guess we'll do it that way. Thumbs up. Okay, so, another comment? Okay.
Sorry about that, Mayor. Yeah, no, again, I'm glad that we're doing a clarification here, and I'm gonna, my promise is if we don't reach the qualified signatures.
Then nothing happens.
Right, no,
Yes.
and I understand it, and as somebody, as we all represent the city, I will continue to work with Councilmember Armendariz if that's the direction that we go. If there's no recall, there's no ill effect whatsoever. And I will continue, like I work with everybody, not everybody
we all
likes
will.
me, but I still work with everybody,
We all will.
right? But yeah, I think the right thing to do, obviously, if the signatures do come and it qualifies, then I think that we should ask.
Okay, so thumbs up. So I see Bracco, I see Marks, myself, Tovar, and Leroy Munoz. Okay, so that's 5. So that is a majority. So that's what we will do. It will be a formal request.
It's 5?
5 to 2.
2?
5 to 2, yeah. Okay, moving on to 11.2. All right, 11.2, Second Amendment to the contract with NRC Environmental, U.S. Ecology, increasing the not-to-exceed amount by $30,000 for unhoused encampment services, a total of $130,000. Maybe I'll take a little break here and let people leave? Okay, so we'll stop for about 2 minutes? 3 minutes? Okay, 3 minutes. Okay. Okay, calling this meeting back. I need to make one statement from before the last vote. I should have said 5-1-1 because we had one abstaining. Okay, and so 11.2, Second Amendment to the contract with NRC Environmental, U.S. Ecology, increasing the not-to-exceed amount by $30,000 for unhoused encampment cleanup to a total of $130,000, and Bryce is going to give us this report.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, staff is requesting to increase the contract in NRC Environmental, also goes by the name of U.S. Ecology, by $30,000. As Council may recall, about a year ago, Council approved a contract with the firm for $100,000 for homeless encampment cleanup and illegal dumping cleanup as well. To date, the city has spent approximately $50,900 on this contract, leaving about $49,100 available. Staff did a walkthrough with U.S. Ecology, scoping out the encampment that's currently located under the Longhouse Restaurant in the creek near Monterey and Howson. The estimate came back at $58,400, about $9,200 more than what's on the contract. So staff is asking to appropriate that, or to increase the contract amount by that amount plus $20,000 roughly for contingency, just in case they uncover something there that requires a little bit more work than what they had estimated. So that results in a total of a $30,000 ask. Staff's recommendation is to approve the Second Amendment to the agreement with NRC Environmental, and that completes my presentation.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go first to council members. Do you have any? Okay, Councilmember Bracco.
Thanks. Who owns the property right underneath the Longhouse? Do they own it?
Do we own it? We do.
We do?
Yes, sir.
Do we rent it?
It's a little more, it's a complicated answer in the fact that the slough that goes through there, the city is responsible for, but I believe the land above is actually owned by the Longhouse.
Okay. I was glad to see this on there because when you drive by there and you see what's going on, it's dangerous for the people inside the restaurant. So I'm glad we brought this up and we're going to do something. But after it gets cleaned up, let's have our PD make sure it doesn't get repopulated.
All right, anyone else? Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have 2 speaker cards, and it's Ms. Valentina Renales and Marty Estrada.
Okay.
And Madam Mayor, I just want to clarify, are we going back to 3 minutes?
Yeah, because we only have 2 speaker cards on this, so yes. Okay, this is 11.2, so go ahead, whichever one of you wants to go first, speaking on this particular item.
I wanted to inquire, and I don't know if I'm privy to that. I'm concerned that we're allotting more monies to this problem. I understand that it's important that we keep our community clean and safe. I advocated for the IOF bridge to get cleared out. Who's holding accountability? Like, who's following up to make sure that it's being done, services are being appropriated? Who's following up that we're not just doing the hamster wheel of we clean up the space, they're back a week later, we clean up the space, we're back later? What does that look like? I know that money coming out from the community is a concern, and I was just, I saw this and I was curious because I did see mass piles of garbage on IOF again, and we cleared that out. And so it's like we're hitting moles, like it's a whack-a-mole game. And so what steps are we at the city council taking to ensure that we nip it in the bud and we come up with a plan that is equitable? So like if the Longhorn has a spot, is there an accessible dumpster that would be cheaper to have that service allotted to just say we're going to put a dumpster and we're going to dump it every month or whatever the schedule is to ensure that we don't have an open hole of excessive money going out? And also, who's following up with the agencies that do serve the homeless population? Because if I could be wrong, but I thought that they had grants that were allocated specifically for cleanup. So is there a connection between the city that's working firsthand with the agencies that serve this community, the homeless, houseless community, to ensure that those funds are being appropriated for the actual cleanup so that the city doesn't absorb those costs? If that hasn't been a conversation, if we can propose to get it on an agenda to follow up with those agencies and with everybody involved to make sure that we're dotting all of our I's and crossing our T's so that we don't have a black hole of money going out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Council members, Mayor, regarding this issue, these are homeless folks. They're not a danger to you and I. But I want you to remind everybody here, especially the city attorney, that there's a major lawsuit in San Jose against destroying property that belongs to the homeless, and it's going through the chain of command through the federal process in federal court. I would advise this council to be careful with throwing away properties that belong to the homeless, because you're going to get sued. Secondly, let's work together. Why don't we get community orgs together to help clean up places and pick spots once a month? Instead of spending $130,000, let's get the community involved so we can start cleaning up these blighted spots. And that'll give us opportunities to speak to the folks that are homeless and see if there's any way that we can get them off the streets or do some kind of triage that we get them into housing at some level. But I think that should be the priority for this council, is that let's work together and trying to solve this issue with our community base. Our community base is waiting. If you go to San Jose, right there by Rose Garden, there's a huge, massive cleanup that they did. You know what happened? All those folks, hundreds of them, just went across the street and parked there. So what I'm saying to you is that though you want to clean up the areas of blight, which is important, they're just going to come back. There has to be a better thinking about a better solution. Maybe develop a ad hoc committee, all of us, and invite the community, a task force, to start looking at this, and let's start chipping away at the problem and then finding solutions. If we register all the homeless, depending on risk assessment and finding out what is it they need, what is it they're really needing? Do they need medication? Do some need services in alcohol and drug counseling? Do they need whatever service do they need? Maybe they need to get their Social Security in order so that way they can get some money and rent a room. There's different ways we can attack this, but I think the council needs to put some good faith in saying, hey, listen, let's develop a plan. Let's invite the community. Let's have a community forum. You know, think about that. Community forum. We'll come, we'll support, and we'll just try to work together to fix the problem. I think cleaning it up and adding 130,000, it's not really going to suffice, not going to really work out the solutions, because they're going to come back. They're going to create, again, more trash is going to be seen there. At the Long Branch, that place has been full of homeless people for quite some time. It's not going to change tomorrow. But we need to think smart, work less, and work together to figure out a plan. A community of action plan so we can address the issue, because PD doesn't have all the time to be going out and servicing these calls. That's not really their game. That's not really what they do. And these folks that are homeless, we just got to find a track to give them supportive housing, and working with Santa Clara County to start building some here, or figure out a way that we can transfer these folks into better solutions other than them just being out there. Part of it is case management services. So please, I would encourage everybody to work together. And let's put a committee together. Let's do it. Put it out to the public, and we'll come out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no more public comments?
Yes, Madam Mayor. There are no more
Okay,
public
so
comments.
closing the public comment, coming back to council. Jimmy, I would ask if you could please explain for council's benefit and also for the public's benefit too, how this is not about picking up litter.
Yes, Madam Mayor. The type of money that is spent on these projects is due to extremely hazardous situations. There is hazardous waste, syringes. The site is what we believe is gas lines as well. And so we would not want to send anybody into that particular location, and that's why it costs so much. I certainly agree with the statements that you clean it out and then it does return, but we have an obligation to ensure that that's safe, at least at that point in time. And so we are certainly chasing our tail a little bit. We cleaned up IOOF, And then within a few days, I got a call request for garbage, and we went out there again. And then we went out there again. The main issue that we have is that we can't stop access to the site because a lot of these are creeks and sloughs, and you can't fence up those types of areas, and so it's a real challenge. But this is not a typical litter cleanup. We do a lot of that during the week. We do have partners. There are volunteer groups. Our recreation department just did UVAS, and so, but I certainly understand the frustration because we feel it too. Thank you.
Right. And we have asked, council did entertain at 2 meetings ago. We are waiting for a report to come back to see how we can stop these things from beginning early. We just have to identify distances from things. So, all right, any other comments? No, okay, then this. Okay.
I'll second.
All right, that was a motion by Councilmember Bracco and seconded by Councilmember Marks to approve the contract amendment. And this is digital voting, so, all right, that's unanimous. Item 11.3, fiscal year 2022-23 first quarter department and legislative work plan update. Yeah, Jimmy's going to be giving us this report.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of City Council. We're going to give you a report on the basically the end of last year and the beginning of this fiscal year on your legislative agenda and the department work plan update. Sometimes as we get going through the months and we deal with so much that we often don't reflect back and say, what did we get done? And that's part of tonight's presentation, is tell you what we've got done, what we're working on, and basically how we're doing. As you may recall, well over a year ago, the council adopted a budget included 2 major components. That was the legislative agenda and then the department work plans. And the department work plans were 2 years, and we are now in year 2. And so the full quarterly report with everything that was in the work plan is included in your packet, but we won't go through every item. Some of them are a little more mundane than others. But tonight we'll focus on talking about the legislative agenda and then what items we have completed in the work plan. In the legislative agenda, we completed a significant amount of items, and I'll show you the total numbers in just a second, but we did bring back renter protection policies. Council decided not to move forward with a formal policy. We did the 5-year street repair program and adopted 2 years of funding for that. It's now funded at $3.8 million annually, which is double before. And then grant writing, we've secured over $5 million in grants in the last year. Unhoused community recommendations were approved, and but one of the recommendations are completed or ongoing. And then the RV towing policy, completed policies presented and continuing to be applied by the Gilroy Police Department. Okay, currently underway, downtown Rule 20 undergrounding. That's most particularly Gourmet Alley that we've talked about. Council just recently approved a parking management contract and also discussed reach codes. And then economic incentives, we've discussed some of those, and then job protections is something that we have not really addressed yet. Access to technology, as we talk about the digital divide, and then council has also talked about a safe parking policy, and many of those are still ongoing. Some of the things that we have not gotten to yet, and I'll explain to you in the next slide or so why we haven't gotten to some of these things. We are only halfway, but we have in lieu fees versus allocations for housing, downtown specific plan, downtown parklets, climate action benchmarks, and public safety mental health response teams. Those are things that are still pending. So when council adopted the budget, there were 16 items legislatively that council approved, and since that time you've added 20. And so we now have 36 different legislative agenda items. So if you look on your council matrix or you see some of these items, you see they keep getting pushed out. And primarily they're getting pushed out just because we have to pace ourselves a bit. And so 36 is a lot. And so we still have 7 in progress, and including 2 that will be coming to council in the next few weeks. One being tonight was the smoking pollution control ordinance, and then the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Policy Consultant Selection, which is coming to council on November 7th. Okay, and then there are 5 that are in early development. Agricultural operations in city limits, which really the nexus of that is beekeeping, but you can't just do bees, you have to address all creatures. And then social host ordinance review, that was council initiated, and that is to be determined. And then drive-throughs through residential areas, which is part of the zoning code update. So it is kind of paused, but will be returning to council. And then safe parking, camping on city-owned properties, and challenge grant council discussions. So these are some of the items we just have not determined a date to bring back to you. It may only seem like it's October, but we have actually quite a bit of limited time left in this actual year. Next, I want to talk to you a little bit about the work plan accomplishments. And just real quickly, $5 million in grants secured. Administration developed a social media policy and an enhanced social media strategy. And then we had the Unhoused Ad Hoc Committee implementation, and we're currently working with the Downtown Ad Hoc Committee as they finalize their final recommendations to present to council at the next meeting. Administrative services, we had implementations of MOUs with all of our bargaining units except for police, and we were able to get all those negotiations finished. And then we also completed a cybersecurity assessment that will come to the council here at the next council meeting in closed session. Community development objective design criteria adopted. Development fees were updated. And then in finance, the ERP, enterprise resource planning software, and human capital management models have both been implemented and are deployed. They're being used. And then finance also updated fees and charges as well, just a few meetings ago. Some kind of neat things that are happening in fire is we expect delivery of the 2 Type 1 fire engines sometime this month. They are going through final punch list and check off by our own Gilroy firefighters as we get ready to accept those engines. And so those are the 2 that council authorized a lease contract with not too long ago. 3 firefighter paramedic personnel hired, and then council also approved the temporary fire station over in Glen Loma. Another accomplishment for fire was the new station alert system that was implemented and went active some time ago. For police, they completed the STOP data collection plan, and they completed the department legitimacy training program, which was principled in policing, implicit bias, and procedural justice. Public Works completed sewer video inspections with in-house staff instead of paying outside contractors. We had the equipment that we received not too long ago, and so we did that in-house. And then a big accomplishment for Public Works was developed and implemented the 5-year street repair program, which we're about to start year 2 of that. And then lastly, the downtown gourmet parking lot, that is in design right now with our consultant and should be under construction here. The gourmet parking lot is actually under construction right now. That's the 7th and Eagleberry lot that if you've driven by it, you can see some noticeable progress. And then the other part I was going to mention was Gourmet Alley, which is under design right now and should commence construction here in the next few months. A big accomplishment by Recreation, restoring the swimming program that went away due to COVID, and that ran in 2022 and had a significant amount of participants. And then the Family Resource Center at San Ysidro Park was implemented and had a few bumps along the way, and we do expect it to continue to be operated by First Five from the county in that facility. So this ties in really closely to your fiscal year 24 and 25 budget. We gave you a financial update a few weeks ago, and so now I'm giving you a working plan and legislative update. We will continue to work on those items, and then when council does its strategic planning in January, sometimes February, we'll review everything that we have done and everything that we plan to do, and we'll get direction from council to see if that's where our priorities should be. We'll also be evaluating the capital improvement plan as well, and so we've talked about recreational facilities, housing, streets, all these things. We'll re-talk about those and see where the priorities are and see what direction council has for myself and city staff. We'll also give you a financial update. 3-4 more months of financial information is always good for us to have as we look at implementing those priorities, and then we'll make sure that council, you can either decide to completely change their goals and priorities, they can just simply update them, or whatever direction the council wants to go. And then we paused completing the 5-year CIP program during COVID, and we'll be bringing that back as part of the budget process as well. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do with our council at the beginning of the year, and so this is just kind of the first step. We're getting you ready for that first planning session in January. That concludes my presentation. I have a lot of department heads and staff members here that can answer some specifics if you have them, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, on the board first is Carol Marks.
Jimmy, the Rule 20 undergrounding, sometimes I hear it's happening, other times I hear it's not. Are we going to underground the poles in Gourmet Alley or not?
We have, well, I would say we don't exactly know yet because we are going through the design, but there's already been some challenges identified with undergrounding in that area. And so one of the cost-effective alternatives may be not to underground, but to have a single point of electrical entry at the end of the block, and that it connects to the building, and then the buildings themselves act like the relay places for the electrical.
So then, would those poles come out if there was one central spot?
Yeah, the majority of the poles would come out. There would
Okay.
still be a few, but a lot would be removed. And we're looking at it from a cost-benefit analysis, and that you're digging sewer, electric, or infra, or what's the term? Fiber optic, all kinds of things that you have to dig into, and so the design is evaluating the cost-effectiveness of that.
And then since the grant is resurfacing the alleyway, how much of an effect is that going to have if we start removing poles? Is that going to ruin the alley?
Well, the undergrounding was going to be paid with Rule 20 money, so that was the PGE
right.
credits we had, so it doesn't really impact the $3.9 million we got for the grant.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Bracco.
Jimmy, what color are these new fire trucks?
Red.
What's the white one that runs around town?
Isn't that a county one? Yeah. That's a county engine. They don't paint theirs red.
Oh, okay, I thought it
Right.
said Gilroy on it.
Sorry. It is a reserve engine that we bought about 4 years ago as a stopgap measure, but it's taken a while to get our new engines, so we've had to keep it a little bit longer than we thought. But as soon as the new engines arrive, everything's going to be dismantled from it, and we're going to sell it for scrap.
So it was formerly a county engine. Okay, formerly a county engine. Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. Okay, if no one else has questions, and I do. Jimmy, thank you for that. And it's been a challenge this year. You know, it's a challenge 2 years ago when we did the whole budget process for 2 years in a row. And then it's a challenge trying to keep from so many future agenda item requests, you know, coming up, and then altering what it is we all decide are going to be what we all decide is the direction we've given staff. It's much more difficult to address a large quantity of items than if you stick to the few, accomplish those, and then add to it. So what I'm asking is, for the items that you may not be able to get to that have been council initiated, will those all come back to us at the budget, when we do the budget process, so that nothing gets forgotten, but that's where we'll address them, because there's just been no other time to do it?
Yeah. I think it'll be a hybrid. We still have, 10 months left in this actual fiscal year. And so we'll continue to have those on the matrix, and there will be times where we get to them. What I think could happen is if we go to the strategic planning in January, and if the council takes a completely different philosophical, what do we want to do, I would ask council at that time to consider dropping some of their current legislative items.
Depending on what
Depending on what the result of that strategic planning meeting is.
Right. Okay. All right, anyone else? Okay, then that's just receive report, right?
Thank you.
So we're good. All right, 11.4. This is looking again at City Code Chapter 19B. And Bryce, you're going to give us the staff report. Is the microphone on?
There we go. Thank you. This is background. This is a council-initiated item, facilitating a discussion regarding what changes in your desired by council related to the smoking pollution control chapter of the city code. Originally, it was adopted in 1986, implementing prohibitions and regulations and signage requirements relating to primarily indoor smoking, but has been amended 3 times, modifying its scope, including towards some limited outdoor restrictions as well. So overall, it regulates 9 different areas: outdoor eating areas, elevators, hospitals and healthcare facilities, places of public assembly, public lobbies and hallways, museums, libraries and galleries, designated non-smoking areas, public restrooms, and parks. Again, like I said, it mostly governs prohibitions as well as signage, and it was used to help enforce parts of the labor code that related to smoking in places of employment. So the item has been initiated, but no direction has been issued yet. Public comment at the meeting when this item was initiated had discussion regarding enhancement of secondhand smoke prohibitions. Should council issue any direction, staff will then bring an item back to council. So at this point, completes the presentation and happy to receive any direction of council.
All right, thank you. Okay, so council, you may recall that when we visited this in March of 2021, the change that we made was to not, to prohibit smoking in parking lots of parks and not just in the parks themselves. And what I recall, I'm not trying to lead a discussion, I'm just trying to say what I recall when we put this on again was wanting to consider whether or not we want to also add prohibiting smoking within a certain number of feet of a public entryway to an apartment building. That's what I recall, but it's council discussion time, so if you'd like to line up on the board, then we can all say whatever it is we think. Councilmember Bracco.
Bryce, what is the current law? Is it like 25 feet or something from an entry?
Unfortunately, I don't know the specific, if there's established limits on that.
Councilmember Hilton.
Councilmember Bracco, were you thinking like on commercial or residential? Commercial. So when I wanted this item on the agenda, first of all, thank you to Public Health who was here. Thank you to the members of the public that spoke up and the community letters that we got. So there's 6 more ways that I think that we can basically enhance and improve the health of our residents. And that would be through outdoor dining areas, entryways, service areas, public events, multi-unit housing, and maybe even multi-unit housing common areas. Those are 6 that I'd like to put on the table. I'm not committed to any of them, but I'm also not committed to just not doing anything at all. I think this is an opportunity for us to continue that forward motion that we already did, as the mayor said, with parks. So with that, I'm open to any discussion, unless you want me to just start putting them out there.
Could you repeat those? Yeah.
Sure. So we've got outdoor dining areas, entryways, service areas, public events, multi-unit housing, or multi-unit housing common areas.
What exactly are you proposing for the outdoor dining? It's already illegal to smoke.
It's
in
not.
a restaurant.
You're allowed to do it in 50% of the outdoor dining.
Really?
Yep.
Hardly anybody smokes anymore outside. I mean, I've not encountered smoke in a long time. That's why, to me, this is not necessary. I think the business owners should be able to have some section of smokers if they want to have smoking customers, but that's up to them, or up to whatever we do here. But it is only half that's required. Okay, Councilmember Marks?
I just I agree with it, because I hate secondhand smoke. Councilmember Hilton, just explain, what do you mean by multi-housing? I'm just curious.
So anything that's 2 units or more. Sorry, anything that's 2 units or more.
So indoors also? Is that what you're saying?
You said common areas.
No, that was the second part, was common.
He had both, yeah.
The first part, he said was housing, so just let me have a picture of what that looks like. Because you know how I take it is that you mean no smoking inside the actual apartment.
Yeah, so many of the newer buildings, they don't allow it. So like anybody that wants to go, most of the modern places, you're not smoking, right? They don't allow it, but many of the older, let's just say like market rate, apartments, there are no, let's say you have a smoker on one side and a non-smoker on the other. There's
Mhm.
nothing to prevent that person from smoking within their home and
Right.
maybe going out the windows and, you know, an older
Right,
home
and through the
creeping in the
vents,
other.
air vents.
Yeah, so that's what I'd be, that's the targeted audience
So
for the multi-housing.
smoke-free buildings is what you're basically saying.
For housing, correct.
You know, I guess it sounds great, but at Los Animas Park, people smoke in the parking lot still, they smoke in the park, and we're not gonna be calling the police out there every single time they're smoking. And I wonder and worry about how we're gonna enforce this.
So you can, you know, you enforce it through the lease. Obviously, it's through education, letting the, you know, those tenants know that it's not allowed. You know, there's many things that aren't allowed in people's homes, right? That causing health to, you know, a detriment to other people's health. It's not about you know, the enforcing and trying to create more staff time and that. It's more based on the education part. And that's for the inside the housing. If you want to go into some of the other areas, you know, like multi-unit, like the common areas, let's say you wanted to start with common areas now and then go to multi-housing later. There is a ton of money out there from private Santa Clara County Public Health Department and others that will work with those tenants to, you know, whether it's signage or how do I put this in my lease so I'm not just being arbitrarily telling someone you can't do something when it's not written in there. There are ways to you know, to work with others on this.
I have a question on Councilmember Mark's exact thing, because if you're talking apartments, apartments and apartment common areas, why wouldn't that be the responsibility of apartment management to enforce the apartment owner's rules? Why does that involve a city ordinance?
I don't
Okay,
understand
that's
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be the same thing as like.
I'm just saying, it would be for the apartment building, right, to say it's a no, just like hotels. I will never get a hotel room that has been smoked in.
Right.
You know, it's the
And
same.
I'm not saying
same.
that, I'm not
Right.
saying that government needs to go in there and do anything. It's,
Oh, well, that's, right, well, that's how changing the ordinance.
well, yeah, it's the same thing as having a smoke detector in the, you know,
Right.
the unit and it's
If I
required
may,
as a
just
carbon
look-
monoxide detector.
I'm sorry, looking at the existing ordinance, which is in the packet, there is enforcement, it's potentially an infraction. However, there's also an enforcement mechanism through business licenses and requiring businesses to self-certify that they're following these rules. So it's kind of an unusual enforcement approach that attempts to put the enforcement onus on the owner, actually.
Yeah, and then it also comes with education, right? So if we want to open up a business or me and you buy a duplex together, you know, we would know at the counter, like, hey, just so you know, we don't allow smoking in these units.
Yeah.
You know, we don't expect you to get that information from some big real estate company because it's mom and pop. So, you know,
I think
yeah,
it-
you would have that information being able to give it to them.
If I could, I think
Okay.
it also allows to, it helps tenants, right, who, you know, we know lots of folks are desperate for housing right now. There's not a lot of options that are affordable or even at market rate, right? And so I think it gives them some leverage if there is a city ordinance, something to be enforced, right? Because they don't own the building, they don't own the unit, they're just renters, right? But if there's nothing there to protect them and to help them keep their families healthy and, you know, safe from secondhand smoke, then they have nothing, right? So I think it helps give our residents who need it, you know, a helpful tool to keep healthy.
And would this just be tobacco, or are you talking marijuana also?
Yep, and that came up last
vaping.
time too, and that's what public health said, is that their communication efforts and enforcement is for all secondhand smoke.
Just as no smoking.
Everything, like anything you could think of that would cause that, correct.
Okay, Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you. Jimmy, I don't know, this question's for you or maybe Councilmember Hilton. So in regards to this here, these ordinance, so two questions. The enforcement portion of it, if we were to move forward with this, the enforcement portion, who's responsible for that and what sort of are the penalties? And is that something that the city's going to be in charge of now, that we're going to be the enforcers? And part two of my question in regards to the businesses.
Just say that.
And I think Councilmember Barkles said, or somebody said it was 50%. Have we spoken to business owners on the effect that this might happen? I did. I've never smoked. I don't smoke, but I'm just curious if there's been any feedback or input from business owners on this possible ordinance.
So to answer your first question, the city attorney did discuss that. He was saying that it's embedded already, the enforcement side of it is embedded already in our charter, and it is passed on to that individual. So it is not it's not the city going like, hey, you just came over here and said you can't smoke. It's put upon them. But I also want you to look back at the education side of it and the empowerment that you would give to a small family that has, like, I can't go anywhere else, you know? So
No, and that's not what I'm
think about
asking.
that.
I understand that. I've done a lot of research. That's not my question. My question is, again, if this ordinance moves forward, and if I own a complex or whatever, and I have tenants that aren't abiding by it, who is going to enforce that, that this ordinance? Is it?
It would, if it is written in your lease, right? And free market, you can write in whatever you want. If it's written in your lease that you shall not do this, right? Then that would trigger a break in your lease, and you wouldn't be able to live there.
Okay,
Is that enough
I think maybe the
enforcement?
city attorney should answer. Like, I'm looking at our packet page 147, and right there it says, any person violating any of the provisions of this chapter shall be guilty of an infraction punishable according to city and state codes. So it does come back on the city.
Right.
And that's why things that are difficult to enforce or are time-consuming, when we already don't have enough police officers to tend to the things, is something to consider.
Right, and again, if I just wrap up, again, I'm in favor, I like this, but again, those are the questions that have not been answered for me, is what's the next step in regards to enforcement, but also the feedback from business owners, and to answer or to comment on Councilmember Hilton's comment at the end there, that's right. I mean, if it's in your lease, it's a reason for you to not, or to break your lease. But when Alexander Station was built, in the lease, it stated that no one could put anything on their balcony, but you see there's stuff everywhere on their balcony. So I'm just saying that it may be an ordinance, but if it's not enforced, it's really not going to do any difference.
It just feels good.
But
It
it's up to
doesn't-
the landlords, right, to the property managers to enforce that.
No, and that's what I'm
Right.
saying. I mean,
And if it's in the contract, then they have something to enforce. And if it's a city ordinance, then if it gets to that point, then our officers will enforce it. Right? It's an infraction.
Or code enforcement is already taking action on the one you
enforcement,
brought
yeah.
up. That's not
It
even.
also gives the business owners or the building owners some teeth, right? Some
yeah,
teeth.
and I'm not questioning that. I'm just bringing
sounded
that
like
out.
that
And
was
then
your
again,
question.
the final part of my question is the feedback for business owners and the effect it may have on their businesses. So, I mean, I don't know if
Well,
that's...
the beauty of that is that I wouldn't recommend staff go out and do this huge study session on it. Take it off the table. Don't talk about it anymore. Let's focus on something that I think we've already been focusing on, which is the multifamily unit housing. I think maybe we might be able to gel something there. Take the smoking off the table.
I would
don't
support,
focus on
I
it.
would support the public areas of the multifamily housing.
Yeah, of
Right,
course.
that's a start.
I would support that, but everything else, no.
Right.
If we could keep secondhand smoke just to those areas, I think then that would make sense, but we can't, right? It
I'm
wafts
just
through
telling
the
you what
air.
I would support.
Right, and I'm just telling you, I think that if it would be logical if we could contain secondhand smoke, but we can't. Yeah.
I think what I said is logical, but okay. All right, so I've stated my position would be, if we add anything at all, it would just be the common areas. If that even in fact gives more teeth to the apartment building owners or management companies, I don't even know. But that is certainly something, a certain distance from entryways, things like that, but certainly not inside of people's apartments, because that we cannot be enforcing, and I do not support anything more on local businesses.
I would agree with the mayor's, if that's your recommendation.
Well,
I mean,
that's my position, so
Okay.
I'm happy to make that. Is this even a motion? I don't think this
Well,
is a motion.
hold
This is a
on.
direction.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those would be my two things to direct. Councilmember Tovar is saying the same thing. Okay?
Well, I think we have to have more discussion because, I mean, I'm a non-smoker, so if I lived in an apartment.
I
it's
think
gonna
we're all
be very
non-smokers.
Uncomfortable having my neighbors smoking, because I've been in Garlic City when the upstairs people were smoking pot, and that was constantly coming down into the restaurant. That was not pleasurable. Or when I was outside and someone was smoking a cigar at the next table, that's not pleasurable. So I'm just the opposite. I understand you don't want to infringe on, the people's rights, but.
No, I didn't say people,
on
the owner, the
non-smokers-
business owner.
No, see,
But
I
for me,
personally
it's the
am-
business
I
owner.
personally am leaning towards saying even the multi-housing.
So secondhand
people.
smoke infringes on people's health.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes. And if
Right,
they
but we
don't
can all
smoke,
move from
they
it.
don't-
No,
They
no,
don't
no, no,
deserve to
no.
have
You-
it.
you-
I mean,
we
In
don't all have
certain-
the ability to move.
No, as children, you cannot, because that was my life for the first 18 years, and it was
Oh, it's-
heavy, heavy, heavy smoke. I can't
Well,
believe I
let's
still
correct it
breathe.
for somebody else.
Can't believe I
Yeah,
still breathe.
exactly.
So
Okay.
here's my suggestion. I would like to see if we can, okay, so if we all agree on the multi-unit common areas to restrict, you cannot smoke in common areas. I think we're all in agreement on that. But I want to see if we can get a majority to agree at least on the multi-unit housing before we push that off the table. If
And we
have-
didn't talk about public events.
No, we didn't talk about it yet. I'm just
Well,
trying
let's
to.
do the multi-housing first, and then move to public
Yeah.
events.
So I'm going to put that out there as this is an item that I'd like to see. And the mayor is okay
Okay.
with common areas. It sounds like
So-
we have a majority for
Okay,
that.
so there were two, hang on, yeah, there were two that supported common areas. Common areas, that was it, right? Two supported common areas.
I
Did anyone
support
else
common areas.
support?
I think everybody
Well, wait a
supports-
minute, wait.
No, I'll, hang
Okay,
on,
go ahead.
okay?
We'll do one by one.
Okay, right, so everybody supports common areas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, how many support banning smoking in all outdoor areas of restaurants?
Okay.
Dining
That
areas.
one? Yep.
That's two people?
No, hold on, they're not.
They're talking.
This
They're
is
not
for-
You
deciding.
guys need to pay attention,
This would be for
please.
outdoor dining.
Okay, I've just asked how many people want to try to ban smoking from the businesses in Gilroy that allow smoking outdoors? 1, 2, 3, so that fails, okay? So I'm crossing that one off, okay? How many want to try to ban smoking from inside people's own apartments?
Yeah, so 2 or more units,
Multi-unit,
multifamily housing.
multi-housing.
Yeah, it could be
Yeah,
duplexes.
If it's multi.
any-
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 or more, 2 or more.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that one worked. Okay. And public events. Who wants to ban smoking from public events?
If I'm at a
That's
park,
two, so
Beam
that fails.
festival, yeah,
Okay,
they're
that
too
one,
close, there's too many
Yeah.
people.
okay,
Well-
that one fails.
Oh, okay, I was still thinking.
Oh, well, there's, that
Do
would
you,
mean
do
you
you
would
under,
need
do
three.
you have any clarifying questions, or do
Well,
you
let's
understand?
clarify it, is it on the outer fringe? Like if you're at a concert, you're inside the concert, I would not want smoking there. But if you're outside where the concessions are, do you mean the whole?
Yeah, so
never
I'll
mind,
give a
Gilroy
specific
events.
example, Downtown Live, right?
Mhm,
We know the
mhm.
areas of Downtown Live. It's a
Mhm.
public event, right?
Yeah.
They pulled a permit for it. This would say, you can
No
have the
sm-
permit, but just so you know,
No smoking
there is no
anywhere.
smoking in your event.
Councilwoman,
Alright.
you would still only make 3, so,
Okay, yeah, we'd only
so
make
it doesn't,
3,
okay, so that one doesn't.
Mayor,
Alright.
sorry,
Yes.
can I ask a question again, and I'm not changing
Uh-huh.
my vote, but I'm gonna go back to my initial comments about the enforcement of this. I'm
Right.
sorry.
I know.
And I have
I
to
am
ask
aware,
because
but-
what I'm hearing is, and I think you read it out, and again, I think that the landlord should be responsible, I mean, they decide, but I'm okay with what we're
But you
voting
were
on.
in on the inside
Right,
apartments
right.
one.
Well, for multi-units, right? Right.
Yeah,
But-
inside, not
right,
just the common areas.
Right. So I guess my question, and maybe this is a question for our police chief, I don't know. So what I'm hearing, if we move forward with this, then it goes to our police department. So now they're gonna drop everything to go cite somebody for smoking.
No,
right?
they're probably never going to get to it because it's going to be
I'm
on the
not-
bottom of the
I'm just
priority
going, I'm
list.
just laying it out, I just wanna know, right?
Yes,
The whole
please.
force is gonna, SWAT is gonna go over there. That's not what
Okay,
Jimmy said either.
please.
Yeah.
In a lot of these situations and ordinances where there is a potential fine, that is an absolute last resort. And in some of these things, we rarely issue fines at all because the education piece or just asking people to stop is enough. So I totally agree that enforcement, and let's be honest about this, when you receive hundreds of calls a night, a smoking call is probably not going to ever get a call for response from an officer. So we would focus on the education.
No, and thank you,
Absolutely does.
Jimmy, for that. And sorry, again, I'm not changing my vote here, obviously, but as a landlord, if this is an ordinance, and one of my tenants is smoke, or wherever, I call police, they never show up, so it's a battle back and forth,
It's
right?
not that's not how you would do it, though.
Okay, I
That's
want to
not the
ask
real
one
world.
other question, and then I would like to go to public comment, if that's all right. Okay, the one other
You
question
keep
is,
your comments to yourself, I'll keep mine in mind.
right now, this council has said the multi-living apartment, that's the only one that both in common areas and inside. That's what
Correct.
has had a majority support. The last thing that Councilmember Hilton mentioned was entryways service, what was it? Something about service. Service, don't worry about that. Okay, that's off the table. Okay, then let's go to public comment.
I received one speaker card at the moment. I think we'll have a second one shortly.
Okay.
And it's Bill O'Connor.
Okay.
You're worried about how you're going to police public events. Why is that any different as to how you police parks, okay? I mean, if you come in and you say, you're going to have this meeting tomorrow from 4 to 7 outside, that sounds like a public event, you know, and I think I wouldn't want smoking there either, okay? So, I mean, you don't have to bring the police in to do it, but you tap somebody on the shoulder that says, hey, you're not supposed to smoke here, like you would say in a park. I don't see the difference, and I think, you know, banning, you know, as a member of the public, if I go to one of these events, I would prefer that they weren't smoking there, okay? And I think you're making too much of a deal on how you're gonna police it as opposed to just telling people they shouldn't smoke there. Thank you.
Good point. Next speaker.
Valentina Ronales.
Good evening. I would concur with him. I think we're making it a bigger issue of like policing it versus like, I also am like, police aren't gonna pick this up. But I do think that it's a step in the right direction for overall health. And I think like if we can get beyond like housing enforcement, because I think about other cities like Great America, you're not allowed to smoke at Great America, you're not allowed to smoke at Gilroy Gardens. How do they handle that? I think that just having, if this is an ordinance, then there's accountability for the people who are in charge of these events to make it clear of like, hey, this isn't happening anymore. It's not open nilly-willy to smoke. We're moving more to a smoke-free, particularly in public places. I think that like if we can take a step back and like, because on one end you're like, oh my God, you're regulating everything we do. Like, it's my right to smoke if I want to smoke. I get that. Multi-housing, it sucks to have a child with asthma that you got smoke from your neighbors coming in, the weed, the meth, like it sucks. And I do think that this is a great
Well, meth is already illegal. Okay.
well, but it still happens, right? Like, unfortunately, you can still smell your neighbors doing things they're not supposed to. I think it's a great initiative, and I would highly encourage us all to like take a step back and not so focus on how is it going to get policed, because it is like we can't bombard everything. Everything's like the police, the police, the police. I think more conscientious citizens will kind of go with the flow. Pretty much everywhere it's kind of not smoking. Other cities have these ordinances, so it's not too far of a reach to bring it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get another speaker card?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it's
Okay.
Michelle Nelson.
All right.
Good evening. Yeah, I wasn't planning on saying anything tonight either. If I had my way, there would be no smoking anywhere on the planet, under any circumstances. Maybe a closet with ventilation. Maybe. I would encourage you to put these notices wherever you can. It's a backup. So I'm very allergic to cigarette smoke. I've been around the world and I've had to limit places I've gone because I have such a bad reaction. You know, I was in a movie theater. Let's see what time it is. Where's the time? Oh, there. You know, I would go to the management, you know, back in the day when smoking, you know, people smoked and it wasn't allowed. So I would tattle and give them a hard time and they stopped. Most of the time, just a simple, would you please put that out? is sufficient, but sometimes you have to ask for backup. Doesn't have to be, SWAT, or anything. It's just, ask the manager. But it's something that we can point to. I was in an airport one time and somebody was smoking, and all I needed to do was point. We didn't speak the same language, but I pointed, and the person stopped. So anything you can do to stop secondhand smoke, this person would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another speaker?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you can fill your card later. We can
Yeah.
put you up now.
No. Wait till you get to the microphone, because there's people who are watching. The meeting's recorded.
My name is
Okay.
William Macanellis, and I want to say something off topic. I would like to thank you for maintaining composure for my boys. I had 10 of them here. Thank you very much. We're going to have a big talk later on. They really enjoyed this meeting. So,
someone did.
but the one thing I do want to say on this topic is I'm a big fan of no smoking. And if you're talking about the events, if the event is violating repetitively, don't renew it next year.
Thank you. Okay, so no more public comments?
No more public comments,
All
Madam
right,
Mayor.
closing public comments. All right. Council, what's the direction? Where we left off is multi-family housing, inside and out. Is that the direction with the majority?
Are we voting on point by point?
We already
still?
did that.
I just want to re-bring up public events after we heard what the public comment, if anybody's willing to change their mind and maybe see this come before us. It doesn't mean you have to vote on it today, but maybe staff can get more information on it so that when it is presented to us, maybe we can make that.
Yeah.
So
Decision
like at
for
the
public
Veterans
events?
Day Parade, for example, you would say there can't be anybody smoking at the Veterans Day Parade.
Yes.
But
Well,
most of our
public
events are
we
more
don't-
contained, right?
yeah.
The parade
I'm
runs a
just
certain
saying
length of.
that these are outdoor things that
Yeah, if I want to enjoy the parade and sit there, I don't want the person next to me smoking, and I don't have to
Yeah.
move
right,
all
but
around.
It's a
you
shared
could move.
space.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
so I'm not supporting that one, but you guys go ahead. Okay, so supporting that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, 5. So that's events, public events. Okay, so are we directing staff then to come back with a revision to Code 19B to include public events, multifamily housing, just multifamily housing? Do I have to say inside and out, or just multifamily housing?
I would just be specific to say 2 units or more. That would be aligned with a lot of the stuff that we talk about for multifamily, 2 units or more.
So yes, you're saying even in duplexes,
And I would.
2 units or more.
specify inside,
Yeah.
just to be safe.
inside and out?
Yes.
Yeah, inside and
So
out.
we all know what we're
That's
talking
the
about.
Yep.
direction. ADUs are single units, right? Okay.
I think there are single
Okay.
units.
Okay, so that's the direction.
Thank you.
Well, okay. All right. Item 12, city administrators reports.
I have no report this evening, Ms. Mayor.
Okay,
Mayor,
Item-
sorry,
oh,
could I ask
what?
the city manager a question?
sure.
Jimmy, if you can, as I notified you and the mayor, could you talk a little bit about the 2 encampment fires that happened this weekend and sort of the severity of those and anything else that can be shared?
You're not
Because I
prepared.
think,
Okay, I don't think well, you want to speak for yourself, but yeah.
Mr. Tovar, I don't have any information to share with the public at this time. We know there were 2 fires about 45 minutes apart, but I could ask Chief Wyatt if he has any information that he'd be willing to share.
thank you, no, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I just, driving by there, seeing how large those fires were, and was worried about the health and also, of the individuals who are out there, but the local homes and residents, so I don't know if there's anything you can share.
Yeah, I don't have all the specifics for that, but I will say that one of the fires, the first encampment fire, was just north of Lease on 101, and it was very quickly put out by the fire crew that got there first. The second one was about 45 minutes later, and it too, although it took out a couple of tents, it was quickly put out. No injuries were reported. And so, as far as I know, they were unintentional, and it appears to have been from improper use or cooking or something to that effect. But beyond that, I don't know who, and I don't know how many tents were destroyed or anything like that.
Thank you for that information, and maybe in a later time, if you could share with us how many encampment fires we've had for the year. Again, I bring this up because obviously I was worried about the safety of the individuals out there, but also
Sure.
the residents. Thank you.
Yeah, and we have had encampment fires that have endangered people before and some injuries, but never a fatality. Not that that's any consolation really, but I will say that they do constitute the majority of our minor fires, and I can report back to the council at a later date.
Yeah, no, if you don't mind, and obviously, so last piece of that is if there's been any damages to residents' homes or anything like that would be nice.
I'm going to interrupt because, I'm going to interrupt because this isn't on the agenda, and it's giving direction to staff that is not on our agenda. I'm sorry. I understand you wanted information. If you,
Well,
ask.
it's not an agenda item. I think
Right,
it's
that's why
important
we can't
information that
discuss
we
it.
should share out. And I mean, I understand what you're saying. I'm going to be respectful of that, but I mean, it's something that's endangering not only our homeless population, but our community. So I think it's something that,
It's something you can ask him in an email through Jimmy, absolutely. But here is, you're being totally respectful. Yes, thank you. Okay. City Attorney's reports.
Okay, I want to mention a few new items that you may have read about in the newspaper, some of which, when you actually look at them, are incredibly confusing, but here they are. One of them is a bill signed by Governor Newsom called AB 2097, and that has to do with parking. It has to do specifically with parking on projects within a half mile of a major transit hub. And essentially, the bill says that the city cannot require such parking for housing, and housing has been the rule for that for a while, for a certain kind of multifamily housing, but also commercial or other developments, and that's new. So how this is going to apply to Gilroy, we don't know. We'll have to deal with staff, work with staff on that. But major transit hubs are defined rather broadly, and they include certain bus lines, for example, even though those could move. It's a kind of strange provision. Another one is SB.
Can I ask a question, or do you
Yes.
want me to wait till
No,
the
go
end?
ahead. That's fine.
Okay, because when you say major transit, the only definition I know is something that comes every 15 minutes, which in Gilroy is only the 68 bus. Do you have a different definition?
No, that's the definition, I believe. But that, on the other hand, tomorrow it could be every 20 minutes.
Yeah, but right now it's every
Right,
15
right,
minutes,
right.
and Gilroy
And a
only has
train
one
station.
thing.
Yeah, and a train station.
If they comes every 15 minutes.
I'm not sure that's true of the train station.
Okay.
actually. But in any event, I'm not trying to define it now in detail. I'm just kind of alerting you that it may have application. Governor Newsom also signed something called SB 6, which is designed to allow housing on underutilized office, retail, or parking zoned properties under 20 acres under certain circumstances. So that also may have application in Gilroy. He also signed 40 other housing bills. And we actually have putting together a memo, and right now it's 13 pages long, and the bills go on and on and on. Many of them don't apply to Gilroy, but some do. So we will report back later with more details on this. It's a sort of omnibus set of bills where everybody's putting everything under the sun into them. There's another bill called AB 2449 that deals with teleconferencing. It's incredibly confusing, and it doesn't allow simple virtual meetings, which is what everybody was hoping. So from the standpoint of our meetings here and the way we do them, at least for the foreseeable future, there's really no change, although in theory, one could make certain changes. Finally, I wanted to report on a Boise case. We've talked about the Boise case many times, which essentially outlawed an ordinance in the city of Boise that said you can't camp, you can't sleep in public property. We talked about that a week or two ago. There's another case now from Grants Pass, Oregon, another Ninth Circuit federal case following Boise. And there the city had a no sleeping and no camping ordinance. The city kind of agreed that they can't ban sleeping in public property, on public property after Boise. But they said if the sleeping person uses rudimentary bedding supplies such as a blanket, a pillow, or a sleeping bag, that's no longer sleeping. It's no longer the status of being a sleeping person. Rather, it's an active crime. In other words, an action that you're actually taking. And this is a distinction between status crimes, for example, being homeless and sleeping outside, versus doing something wrong like defecating in public, for example. This is a distinction the court's had a lot of trouble with. This case, the court says that's ridiculous. If somebody sleeps outside, surely they have the right to stay dry. And they can you have a sleeping bag, pillows. That sort of makes sense. There's a dissent in the case that says, well, wait a minute, if that's true, why can't they erect a tent? And it's generally been held that you can prevent tents. So this is a very confusing area of the law. We will have to take it into account in moving forward with the ordinance revisions that we talked about at the council a couple weeks ago.
Andy, so what was the decision on that case? You said there was a dissent, but what was the
The
majority
2-to-1 decision was the city could not enforce the provision saying you can sleep in the park, but you can't have a sleeping bag. So in other words, it basically outlawed the anti-camping ordinance. The other thing it did, it extended Boise. Boise, you may recall, depends on the 8th Amendment's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. That only applies to criminal cases. This court says, although these are civil cases, because people are being essentially given civil citations, they're not being treated criminally, that can lead to a criminal case, because if someone repeatedly does it, they could be arrested for trespassing. Therefore, the Boise decision applies even though this program is a civil program. That's a stretch also. And so all of these things are prime for change, but this is the first major case after Boise. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I don't know if I've enlightened you at all, because all of these things are confusing and complex. Every one of the ones I just reported on.
You said the Boise now includes civil. right?
This case extends it to civil,
Okay.
yes. Whether that will be the law or not, as I say, this was a 2-to-1 decision of the Ninth Circuit. The dissent says we're going way far. Hopefully, the Supreme Court will take the case and overrule Boise and this case, but we don't know if that'll happen.
Not hopefully.
They did not take Boise.
Not hopefully.
I agree.
Well, we'll
Not
see.
helpful.
We'll see. No, it's not helpful. You think this is actually a perfect case for
No.
this Supreme Court to take?
I'm saying I'm not hopeful that
You're
the
not hopeful.
Supreme Court does that, correct?
Well, we'll see.
I
We'll see.
think it's inhumane.
Anyway, that's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you, Andy. I was teasing. I mean,
Why?
yeah, a lot of legal stuff is not helpful. Okay, helpful, not hopeful, yeah. Closed session, do you want to take us in?
Yes, this is a law, conference with labor negotiators, collective bargaining pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, Gilroy Code 17A11-4. Collective bargaining units, AFSCME Local 101, general and supervisory units, representing employees affiliated with AFSCME, Local 101, Local 2805, IAFF Fire Unit, representing Gilroy firefighters, Gilroy Management Association, representing mid-management employees, unrepresented exempt employees, confidential department heads and council-appointed, unrepresented confidential non-exempt employees. City negotiators Jimmy Forbes and Leanne McPhillips, anticipated issues, wages, hours, benefits, working conditions, memorandums of understanding, City of Gilroy and Gilroy firefighters, Local 2805, City of Gilroy and AFSCME Local 101, general and supervisory units, City of Gilroy and Gilroy Management Association, GMA. So the appropriate action now is to receive public comment. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay. Then we can go into closed session. The first item in the closed session is to vote to stay in closed session, and that is a reportable action.
Okay, so we'll adjourn to closed session. It is 9:04. We'll take do we need 5 minutes to shut everything down?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right, 5 minutes, and we'll come back. So at 9:09.